It takes a village.
Do you ever feel like we're trapped in the world's worst reality TV show? Not the fun kind, not the someone flips a table and we laugh about it later kind. I'm talking about the kind where the stakes are real. The consequences are real. And somehow the people in charge are still acting like they're auditioning for screen time. Every day, it's something new. It's a new scandal, a new fight, a new headline designed to make you mad and keep you mad. And then, bonus round, turn you on each other. And the wildest part is it's working. We are hooked on the drama. We're doom scrolling like it's a competitive sport. We're arguing in the comment section like there's a trophy for the most emotionally exhausted citizen of the week. Hello, that's me. Everybody's yelling. Nobody is listening. And somehow the people actually pulling the strings, they're just sitting back, watching all of it happen and watching those ratings climb up. Because this is chaos. This is constant outrage. This feeling like everything is on fire all the time. This is the environment they want. If we're distracted, we're not organized. If we're fighting each other, we're not holding them accountable. If we're exhausted, we aren't showing up. Just ask the 80 million people who stayed home in 2024. I don't know about you, but I am so damn tired of being cast as an extra in somebody else's circus. Like, can we talk about the absolute absurdity of all of this for a second? We've got this political elite cackling, cracking jokes at fancy dinners, while the rest of us are sitting here like, are we okay? Are we supposed to be laughing right now? Because I just can't afford my groceries. This doesn't feel funny. This feels disconnected. It feels performative. It feels like we're watching people play dress up with power while the real people are out here trying to survive. And meanwhile, on this app, on every app, we've built this entire ecosystem around talking about it. Panels, threads, think pieces, and listen, talking matters. It does. There's healing in it. But there's awareness in it, and there's community in it, but there's also rage in it. Because at some point we've got to ask ourselves, what the actual hell are we doing with all of this awareness? Hey, Jeff, I'll bring you up in just a moment. Because yelling into the void is not a strategy. Being right in a comment section does not change policy. Dragging someone for a bad take, although that is super fun sometimes, just saying, it doesn't flip a seat. And I say that with love and a huge amount of rage because I am guilty of it too. We cannot just keep narrating the collapse like it's entertainment. We have to start interrupting it. That means getting uncomfortable. That means doing things that don't go viral. That means caring about races that aren't sexy or easy or guaranteed wins. Because here's the truth. Change does not come from the loudest moment. It comes from the most consistent action. And tonight we're going to talk about what that actually looks like. We're going to talk about a race in a place that most people have already written off. We're going to talk about what it means to run in a district that's been labeled unflippable. And we're going to talk about what it takes, not just from the candidate, but from all of us to prove that label wrong. Because if this is really a reality show, then I, for one, am so ready to cancel it. So pull up a chair, grab yourself a snack, and make sure you are hydrated and get ready. Because tonight we're going to sit down with Jeff Pixley and we're going to start figuring out how we stop watching and we start changing the script. Ladies and gentlemen, this is It Takes a Village, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. So sit tight. We'll get started in just a minute.
It's a village, because for all means for all. Together we'll break down any wall. Linked in love, we won't disarm. We're uniting the grassroots armies strong. So press play, feel the spark. This is where the movement starts. It takes a village and we're the proof. Truth in action, raising the roof. It takes a village. It takes a village. We rise together, louder than fear. One voice from fire, crystal clear. From every banner, every street, unity moves on dancing feet. We rise together, we're strong. A million hearts singing
one song. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It Takes a Village. I am your charming and furious host, Political Jess, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Tonight is going to be a really awesome little treat for everybody here. If you are just coming in, don't be shy. Go ahead and tap the screen like it owes you money. Share out the live and get loud in the chat, because here's the deal. When you engage, when you share, when you show up, you tell TikTok that this is where the conversation is happening, and we are about to drop some knowledge. So let's get into it. Tonight we are talking about what it takes to actually stop spectating and start participating. Because it's really easy to stay distracted when the seat isn't flippable. It's really easy to write places off, especially when they're in the Bible Belt. And it's really easy to sit back and say, well, it's not really possible there. Because here's the deal, guys. People actually live there. Families live there. Voters live there. And if we're serious about changing the country, we don't get to skip entire regions because they're hard. So tonight, we're going to take a little drive over to Oklahoma. And we're joined tonight by... And I got a button here. Hang on. Jeff Pixley. That's right. Jeff is a retired Air Force colonel, a veteran who has spent decades in the service, and now he's stepping into a different kind of fight. He's a Democratic candidate running for Congress in Oklahoma's 4th congressional district, a district that has been labeled solid red, unflippable, not worth the effort, and yet... here he is, running anyway, showing up anyway, building anyway. So let's be clear with folks watching. This is an uphill battle. This is not impossible. This district is currently held by Tom Cole, a longtime Republican incumbent. There is a Democratic primary. Jeffrey's running against Mitchell Jacob, and that primary is on June 16th. And the general election, of course, is November 30th. So yes, this is hard. But hard is not the same thing as impossible. And if we're serious about changing the ending of this reality show that we're all stuck in, then we need to start investing in places that nobody else is paying attention to. So Jeff, welcome to It Takes a Village. We are so glad that you are here.
I really appreciate you inviting me, Jess. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you for hanging tight with that really long monologue. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm glad you did it. You're speaking the truth, I tell you.
Yeah, you're my neighbor. You're like, I'm in northern Texas. So if I had a really good arm, I could probably throw a rock and hit you in the head. So this matters to you, but it matters to me too, because this whole section of the country, I feel like, has just been left out to dry, you know? It's been in Republican hands, and it shows. Our education is lowest in the country. Our healthcare sucks. Our career opportunities are garbage. So let's talk about the reality that we're in. I opened tonight talking about how it feels like we're all living in a really bad reality TV show. There's just constant chaos and constant conflict. And from where you sit, is that how it feels on the ground in Oklahoma too?
Oh, absolutely. It feels like that every day. And I'm as guilty as the next person to fallen for the trap of doom scrolling all day long and going all the way till the wee hours. And it's funny you talk about a reality show. I hadn't really thought of it that way until you said it, but what do reality shows do? They create a bunch of conflict and drama, cause people to be angry at one another. We become spectators in it if we don't become personally involved in it. And then at the end of every episode, they leave a cliffhanger, and that's kind of how I feel every morning. I wake up and I'm like, okay, what happened overnight? And some new calamity has been dropped on us.
Yeah, exactly. Did you happen to catch? I mean, of course you did. You caught what happened on Friday.
Oh yeah, you talking about at the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
The Correspondents' Dinner, yes. I wanted to get your take on that really quick because, and I'll tell you how I feel about it after your take, because I don't want to soil the waters with my my blasphemy. So
Okay.
go ahead and share your take if you wouldn't mind.
So my broadest possible take is, and this is not going to surprise anybody who knows me, that I completely object to and renounce any form of political violence in our country. That's not how we're supposed to get anything done. So I don't cheer on anybody who is planning on either threatening to or actually taking up violence against anybody in government. That's not how it's supposed to work. But what I'll tell you, so that's not, I don't think that's a controversial take, although there's some people out there that might consider me, to be weak for saying that. But I believe that in my heart, we can't have a system where that's the normal thing. But the thing that really gets me is this administration and other folks' willingness and expertise at capitalizing on such things and turning to their benefit. So I'm not going to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but it doesn't matter whether it was real or staged, because what the effect is that it animates a bunch of folks to be able to point fingers, and pointing fingers is part of the strategy to distract us and to divide us and to make us suspicious of everybody in government, so we all give up. And I'm not falling for that trap. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I have two possibilities here, and I think that the chat will probably agree with me here. It was either staged because he really wants his ballroom, or the Secret Service and the FBI are absolutely fucking horrible at doing their jobs. It's like one or the other, guys. So you are either really horrendous at protecting the president of the United States, which, our tax dollars pay for, by the way, or this was all made up. So that's my hot take on that.
I can speak on the second part of that.
Go ahead.
Not knowing their job. One of my gigs, if you look at my bio, one of the gigs I did for a couple of years, actually about a year, I worked for Air Force One as a side gig when I was stationed in Texas. So I got a ton of opportunities to interact with Secret Service and watch the incredible professionalism back in 2012. So institutionally, they are great at this. I have stayed in hotels where where President Obama was staying. I know the mountains they will move to protect the president, indoors, outdoors. They're capable of doing it. Now, sometimes the White House will tell people, will push back, and when it's too much, and they think it may interferes with their ability to interact with the people, but they're certainly capable of doing it. But back to my previous point, the fact is everybody's sudden, like immediately after it happened, the widespread talk about this is why we need the ballroom, that coordinated effort that happened, that can happen after the fact, even if it wasn't planned ahead of time. But it just proves that they are ready for anything. They are organized, and they're ready to act on a moment's notice on a single message and push their agenda. And that's something that I don't speak for the Democratic Party, but I'm a Democrat. I struggle with us because we are terrible at this. When we have an opportunity to join together and be on message together, we often are very scattered in our approach, and we let internal infighting and bad feelings from 2 elections ago interfere with the task at hand, which is saving our country. So it's frustrating to watch them be so good at this when we're so bad at it, and when we're on the right side of history.
Yeah, and I think that this whole thing might have been different if, at the beginning of the administration, all of the most experienced, the most seasoned professionals were let go because they wouldn't sign a loyalty pledge. So a lot of people who would know what to do when the president is going to a hotel to speak, which by the way, he hasn't been to a single correspondence dinner so why this one? Why this one? That's so weird, right? But I know, so I have so many questions. There's so many questions. But if they hadn't done that, then people might be more prepared to, you know, apprehend an assailant who's charging at them. I don't know. Like, I'm just a regular old nerdy gal who's just saying things out loud. So, so let me ask you, let's get back on track here. Sorry, we had a little bit of a tangent there. Why do you think people are so exhausted right now? And how does that exhaustion show up in voters, keeping in mind that 80 million plus people stayed home in 2024?
Right. Well, I think people are exhausted for a couple of reasons. The first one, you hear about this from politicians around the country, is they're exhausted because they're working harder than they ever have before and making less headway. And when you don't feel like you're moving forward, you don't feel like you are better off each year, and you're in doubt about if you have kids, whether your kids are going to be better off than you are. That takes a toll on you, psychologically, and that's going to wear you out. That combined with a really deep cynicism about politicians and politics, and I'm kind of an optimist, right? At my heart, I think you kind of have to be to throw yourself into the deep end of the pool like I've done here.
Yeah.
But people understandably look at government at all levels, but certainly our federal government, and no matter where you are on the political spectrum, it's easy to find things that prove that there are an awful lot of people in government who are doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it to line their own pockets because of their own power, because of their own influence, for future business, whatever, for ego. And not an awful lot is done for the benefit of regular voters. So when you see that enough times, and you begin to feel like, well, what's the point of me taking part of a Tuesday off to go vote because my vote doesn't matter? It's not making a difference. Even if my guy or gal wins, nothing changes. They don't see a real difference in outcomes between the two parties, and that's not. I don't think that's true that that's the case. But perception is what matters. And if the most important things in their lives are problems that keep getting pushed off and not getting solved, you can kind of forgive someone for kind of checking out. I hope those days are over. And voter turnout is terrible. Oklahoma has among the lowest turnout in the country. And before I was in politics, I kind of I would shame Oklahomans for staying home on election day. But now I'm a candidate, and I've come to the conclusion that it's my job to inspire people to go vote. So if we have low turnout in this primary, it's because I failed to do my job. So I'm taking that very seriously. I'm trying to be, to maybe provide some optimism for the first time in a long time to folks, so they see there's a possibility for change, and be the type of candidate that someone's going to be willing to go fight for, either in the primary in June for the Dems, or in the general election. I'm sure we'll talk more about the math there, but people need to be fired up, and there's some things that'll fire people up to go vote. Anger does that, distrust does that, but I'm not in the business of fomenting anger and distrust. My goal is to give people something to look forward to. And I think solid progressive policies that are focused on taking care of everybody in our country, and that still account for and speak to and speak with and consider and help people that are not in my own party. That is what we are desperately lacking in our country. This us versus them between the parties is just crushing us. And if we keep doing it, we're going to keep getting the same results.
Absolutely. My headset died, so I had to take it off. I couldn't hear you. Like all of a sudden there was no sound. But I can hear you now, so it's all good. I completely agree with that. And I think that there's something to be said about the billionaire class doing a lot of that, pitting us against each other, because if we're too busy fighting the people on the right, then we don't get to fight. We don't get to put the billionaires on the menu. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something that the left really needs to do better about, shifting that narrative. And the messaging on the left is just frustrating, to say the least.
Well, and it's back to our original, that side conversation we started with. There are so many things that are really frustrating, or can cause like well-founded anger, that ought to be addressed. Ignoring them is probably not the way to go, but we can't just focus on those side quests, because if we only tackle side quests, we're never going to get the mission accomplished. And we have some really important stuff to do when it comes to wages in this country, about due process under the law in our country, about taking care of people, whether or not they were born here, taking care of marginalized communities, getting universal health care passed. Those are giant rocks. We need to focus on those. And I'm not saying we shouldn't tackle the side quests, but I think we should give them just the amount of attention we need to be consistent with our values, and realize that the bigger fights are the ones that the billionaire class doesn't want us to tackle, right? They're winning by us focusing on the marginal issues, the ones that animate people and anger people. And often when I'm on the street and talking to folks, especially in non-democratic audiences, sometimes the first thing they bring up is some really marginal issue that they've been told to be super upset about. And it takes a lot of work to coax them back to the middle of the field where we have big joint problems to solve. But I'm determined to do it.
Yeah, I think it's really important in the redder places too, like these places that have been completely ignored, for lack of a better term. Do you believe that all of this chaos that's being fomented right now is intentional?
I do. I think there's a fair amount of it. Our media has been overtaken by corporate interests to benefit from this. Our First Amendment, which I love the First Amendment. I'm a big supporter. I dedicated my whole adult life to defending the Constitution. Our First Amendment is precious, but it's also our soft underbelly. And what I mean by that is our adversaries who benefit from us fighting each other have cracked the code, and they use social media and other ways of injecting into our culture these fights, because it weakens our country, distracts us from tackling problems abroad. And I know for a fact there are foreign interests who will spend they spend billions of dollars to make sure that Americans are bombarded with their messaging, that if not overtly pro wherever their country is, it's sufficiently divisive that causes us to fight each other, which keeps us from keeping our eyes on the ball. So it is definitely on purpose. Now, is that to say that absent those things, it would be utopia? Before social media, that the world had problems and challenges, but we've gotten so used to hiding behind screens. And it's so uncommon now to look at someone in the eye when you're having a conversation. We don't talk about important issues face to face often anymore, because people have decided that's impolite. But we can overcome that. We just have to decide to be in a room together and not let political differences stop us from solving joint problems. And the last thing I'll say on that subject is there's nobody that's going to convince me my neighbor is my enemy. My neighbor is my neighbor, and I'm going to be there for them. That's the tradition. American tradition is that way, and for the most part, that's how most people behave. When push comes to shove, when the tree falls on the neighbor's house, or there's a flood or something, people always come together, and they almost never ask who'd you vote for first. So that the instinct is there. We just need to not let media and politics ruin that good nature part of us that's just about seeing someone in danger and having empathy take over.
Yeah, I think empathy is something that we've lost. like a lot of, I don't know how that happened. I don't know I can't pinpoint when that happened exactly in our country. Do you have a better idea of when? Do you know the moment? Do you know?
I don't. we have a lot of cultural issues that stop us from thinking about others as real people. I think social media may be the biggest culprit. If I had to pick one thing, because it's not the same texting or DMing someone. People are much more rude, unkind to one another through a computer screen than they are in real life. So I don't know if that's robbed us our empathy. It's just that maybe the majority of our interpersonal interactions are not happening in meat space. Is that what we call it? In 3D, where empathy is triggered by just our millions of years of evolution that taught us how to read body language and to detect when someone's uncomfortable or in pain. That's probably it. So I think it's there. If tomorrow, social media went away and we were forced to sit around the campfire, I'm pretty sure the world would be it'd be chaotic, but it'd be a better place for a little while until we ran out of food, I suppose.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I think about what it's doing to our kids too. Like they're different than we were. Of course, I mean, you're the generation ahead of me, right? You're Gen X,
Yeah.
I believe. Yes. I'm an elder millennial. So I remember a time without the internet.
Right.
My kids will not ever know what that world is. So I think it changes them. And I don't know that it's for the better.
I don't think it is. I think having the world at your fingertips can be helpful in some ways, but I think the downsides exceed the upsides personally. And this is not meant to be a flex. I know some people's lives are more centered around social media, but I did until I started campaigning. I didn't have any social media. I had seen the dangers of it, and I didn't have it. I have it now because it's a necessary evil. And I found some good elements. Maybe this is the true confession that I can give you right now is, I scoffed TikTok when my youngest is now 28. I think she's probably in the comments somewhere. She's one of my mods. When my daughter was on TikTok, what I could hear was cat videos and dumb dance stuff, which I thought was silly. And when I first got on TikTok, she actually helped drive me toward the conversations and panels like this, like Lenny Soul Morning Show and others who are having really important conversations like this. So I think if there's an upside to social media that still remains, it's places like this where where people can get together, exchange ideas politely, maybe even vocally disagreeing with one another, but keeping it civil. I think this is if there's an upside, that's this, because there's no way that the 18 people that are here, 2 of them live here in town, the rest of them are around the world, and while they may never have a chance to vote for me, I think what we are talking about matters and applies broadly in our country, and that's a good thing. So I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it for personal reasons. I really need it for my campaign. But there is value in it. And I think that if I have a remaining complaint, there are people out there who've monetized this, and they've monetized rage, and they take what looks like what I'm seeing on my screen right now, but it's not really that. It's really the intent is to create anger and animosity and rage bait, and then it's all about how many galaxies you can get and making money off this, which. I guess I can't begrudge someone for making a buck when it's hard to make a buck, but I don't think it's helping. It's not helping the greater cause that I'm focused on mostly. So, if Dean Withers asked me to be on a show, I would certainly go on a show because I could use the help. However, I would, from a what you're doing to make a difference perspective, I think something like this is more my style than Dean. Sorry, Dean, if you're watching.
If Dean is watching, dude, we need to chat, buddy. Dean. There is a lot to be said about what Dean does, because Dean teaches people, for lack of a better term, how to talk to their MAGA family and how to engage with the points that they bring up. And I have heard people go on his show and say, I am so glad that you're here, because I used to be MAGA. I voted for this guy 3 times. And I can't believe that I did that. And I'm so sorry that I did that. And now I'm doing the work to make it right. So There
Yeah,
are
I
people,
don't dispute that. I think that's true in small numbers, and he's
yeah,
certainly not the worst offender. But there are people out there that their whole model is based on
rage
anger
baiting.
and rage and
Yeah.
cursing and drawing people in just so they can shout them down and call them names. It's not helping anybody.
No, and I think that was part of my intro monologue talked about how that's like the default setting nowadays. Everything is about chaos. It's a reality TV show. You have to, we're not flipping a table and then laughing about it afterwards. We're flipping a table and then we're going up to somebody and punching them in the face. Like it's just constant aggression and constant adversity all the time. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Um, I don't know how we got here, but it's really frustrating to watch, and it feels like there's hate is so much more. It's louder than hope is. Hate is louder than hope. It invokes more feelings than hope. It's an easier emotion to express than hope is. Hope is more powerful, but hate is easier.
Well, and I agree with you. And one of the things that I think is missing, and maybe this is happening in schools, I don't know. But when I was one of my jobs, two jobs ago, I was the commander of basic training for the Air Force. So I got to see all the new people in the Air Force every week come in from around the country to join up. And one of the things that I could tell was missing is the ability to responsibly consume information from the internet. And we didn't have a class on. I wasn't able to create a class, although I hope we do one day down there. But American children need this. Every kid, before they are allowed to go to the internet, should have some kind of training or education to help them understand that if you read something or see something that makes you feel something, anger, or extreme emotions of any kind, whether it's positive or negative, that should be a red flag. And ask yourself, why is this person trying to manipulate me? You have to assume that you're being manipulated. And I know that's a kind of a cynical way to look at it, but when that's a defense against defense against extremism. It's a defense against racism and misogyny and biases against cultures and biases against marginalized groups. It's also a pretty good defense mechanism against advertisers. And maybe that's maybe that's why they don't teach us, because once you become a good critical thinker and a consumer of information, you're going to be less likely to fall for a trap online, a consumer trap. And maybe that's the only thing stopping us from making our kids giving them those defenses. But that'd be my ideal world.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So let's talk about the race that you are in, this unflippable myth that you're running against. You're running in a district that a lot of people have already written off, right? So I've got to ask, why this race and why right now?
So I'll answer those in the reverse order. So why right now is so up until September of last year, I was in the Air Force, and I spent 35 years in uniform, being apolitical. You're not allowed to be overtly political in the military, and while you're allowed to have your own, voting choices, and I of course voted, I was not a political creature. And this time last year, the president started firing generals and firing lawyers, and I realized that my oath of office might come into conflict with the orders I was going to receive. So I left the Air Force a year earlier than I had planned, because I didn't want to participate in things I thought were immoral or illegal. So that explains the timing. Why this race is related to that. So I decided to retire, and once I saw what the timeline was, I realized that I would be able to be active in the 2026 race in some way. And while this is a red district or red state, and it's a red district in a red state, I live in Norman, which is a university town. It's one of the blue dots in Oklahoma. And that means that everybody in kind of the food chain up above me politically are good Dems and people I trust. until you get to Congress. And that's where Representative Cole and my two senators, who are both Republicans, weren't meeting, weren't doing a good job, in my opinion. So when I decided to retire, I'm like, okay, I can be involved. What can this guy with this new freedom to be involved in politics for the first time at 53 years old, what can I do? And I thought to myself, I'll go to protest, and I'll fundraise, and I'll go find, who is going to beat Tom Cole is the question I asked myself. How do I help that person beat Tom Cole in 2026? And I looked up who ran against him last time and who ran against him time before, and the time before and time before, same person all 4 times for the last 8 years, the same person has run. And that person got her butt kicked every single time by 1,000,000 points. And I realized that me, deciding to spend the next year helping her get elected would be a waste of time. And she's a good person. Don't get me wrong. I think her message was good, and she's a good Democrat. She just wasn't a serious candidate, and she had no chance to win, and it showed in the results. So when I realized that, I asked myself, I'm like, can I possibly run? Is this something that is in the cards? So I went to some people I trust, and I said, am I crazy for thinking about running for Congress? And they said, yeah, you're crazy, but you should totally do it.
Do it.
That's exactly what they said. And so I made that decision about this time last year, and I wasn't retired yet. Because there's a bureaucracy, I had to wait until I could actually retire. So I spent about 200 days knowing I was going to run for office, but being unable to tell anybody other than my wife and my kids. I was thinking hard about doing it. That gave me a lot of time to think about it and to strategize about it, to do research and figure out what does a grassroots candidate look like. And probably the important question that you're going to ask is about the math. And the math a year ago was bad. It was like, I wouldn't say unwinnable. There's always a chance, but things were not good. We kept losing, and it looked like it was a done deal. We would lose again, maybe not by 35 points, but we'd lose badly. But during that time, I did a lot of analysis. At the same time, the world kept getting worse. The decisions from the federal government kept getting worse. Our representatives kept making worse and worse decisions, and the combination of the national mood, the fact that the administration keeps basically handing us gifts of atrocities to give us ammunition to use back against them. Yeah. Plus realizing, and maybe this is a key point, this district has not nominated a solid competitor in a long time. And the conventional wisdom is this is a district or a seat that favors the Republican by 17 points. But that's only true based on history and based on all else being equal. And I don't think right now all else is equal. And this is the part that it's hard for people to hear sometimes. And I wish this weren't true, I promise you. But the math in this district means I'm going to need a couple, tens of thousands of Republicans and independents to vote for a Democrat for the first time, maybe ever. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is to have the moral high ground, be on the right side of history, speak plainly and truthfully. But honestly, being a middle-aged white dude with 35 years military experience might be the secret that gets me over the top. So the winnability of this race exists, I think, primarily because of who I am as a candidate and what I bring to the table. It doesn't mean that my competitor in the primary is, that it's impossible for him to win. But I believe that to get the crossover votes I need across the rest of this district, the redder parts of this district, the rural parts of this district, those folks are going to need someone that they trust, because it's a leap of faith to vote for someone across party lines. They need to trust me, trust that whoever they're voting for. And my message to them is, you may not know this, but you already have trusted me. For 30 years, you've trusted me. And every role I've done since I was 17 all the way until my last job at the university, you've already put a lot of faith in me, and I've always come through, and I've done the hard work and sacrificed and maintained my integrity that whole time. And I think, what more can you ask from a politician than that they show integrity? And the other thing that I'll say, and I'll shut up for a second, is the people are kind of put off by career politicians. They don't want, they're watching Democrats die at their desks, and they're done with that. And one of the things that I can tell them with a straight face is that's not going to be me. I don't want a long career in politics. I see myself as kind of like a trauma surgeon. I binge watched the Pit, so forgive the use of the term, but I feel like I'm an emergency room doctor whose job it is to take this catastrophe that rolled through the door and keep it alive. I don't need to make it pretty. I need to save the patient and then hand it off to the experts upstairs who are going to do the plastic surgery and make it pretty again. We need to save this patient. We have foundational constitutional issues we need to sort out. We have some balance of power stuff we need to sort out. We need to fix our place on the world stage because we've basically taken our reputation and flushed it down the toilet on the world stage. We need to protect human rights in this country. Those are really important, foundational, fundamental to who we are issues that we need to tackle immediately. And once we get that patient stabilized, I'm going to retire for real and come back home because I promised my wife, Andrea, that we go hiking and the Appalachian Trail, not door knocking, hanging door hangers. I'm going to give her the retirement that she deserves after being with me for 35 years in the military. So I'm going to go in and do it until I can hand it off to somebody younger. Hopefully a strong young woman like Madison, my daughter, who's hopefully in the comments right now. There she is.
Wink, nudge,
Madison
nudge.
is she'll replace me in Congress.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It takes it for women, especially Madison. I hope you're listening. Women have to be asked 7 times to run for Congress or anything, or to run for anything before they actually do it. So just keep that in mind. I think we can probably squish in seven requests there for you, babe. So
yeah, my dream. This is a total personal aside, but my dream is that Madison, who she lives out of state right now, at some point the circumstances will allow her to move back to Oklahoma. I want her to buy a house on my cul-de-sac, so she's my neighbor, and then I'm going to train and mentor her to be the leader that she's already become. She's an amazing young woman and a leader and a smart person that everybody should want to be friends with. So follow Madison, please, if you're not in the comments. All right, do that.
I already did. That's amazing. Yes, you will. Just get out there, girl. You got. Take my Apple Watch right now. I do need to ask you a question though. This one is something you said made me think of this. So we have so much work to do to fix all of the things that have been broken, right? So much work it is overwhelming, all of the institutions that we have trusted and we've put all of our faith in for all of this time, education department, the, national security, immigration, et cetera, that have been broken by this administration. When we are in a position to fix it, how do you see that happening?
So it's going to begin with some pretty dramatic oversight and accountability issues in Congress. We have, there are a lot of folks inside and adjacent to government who have taken advantage of their positions in government to either line their pockets or directly take money from the taxpayers. And we need to root those people out. We need to hold them accountable, and we need to claw back all of their ill-gotten gains. And that's not going to fix the underlying, the structural problems that permitted them to get away with those things. But we need to have accountability immediately, so we put a stop to the behavior, and then we need to legislate ways to prevent that from happening. There are a handful of agencies in our government that already existed that were gutted by this administration. Everything from the IRS to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to the providing real oversight in Congress. Those things they're kind of looking the other way, turning a blind eye. The Justice Department, the white collar criminal prosecutions have essentially disappeared in favor of taking some woman who's trying to become a citizen and following the rules and having her carted away. We have to tackle those things, and we're gonna have to write some legislation. And this is a really important point I make to folks. I don't want anybody to, I can't imagine a world where I'm in Congress and there hasn't been a blue tsunami, right? Because the math is for me to go, that means there's been that giant blue wave.
Yeah.
But just because there's been a giant blue wave and guys in unflippable districts get brought into Congress, it would be a massive error. And I think it would be a slap in the face to the voters who put their faith in us to go to Congress and do only single party focused issues. We need to go find people in, no matter where they're in Congress, who want to fix these problems and lock arms with them and tackle them in a bipartisan or tripartisan way. And I'm not out there courting MAGA, but what I'll tell you is, if there's someone on the other side of the aisle has a good idea to help stop this from ever happening again, I'm listening. And I will co-sponsor legislation or bring them on board legislation to help fix these things so this never happens again. Because the truth is, the broken system we have right now, where the president has too much power, if Kamala Harris were president right now, I would be just as mad about the power of the presidency, because it is wrong. So we need to decide that is what's good for our country, what is sustainable for our country, what adds engenders faith in our government, requires us to work together. And my first order of business is find every veteran I can in Congress. There's not a ton of them, but every veteran in the House of Representatives, I'm going to go personally make contact with them and figure out how our oaths of office can be leveraged to do the right thing. Because if you've taken an oath and you've taken it seriously, I guarantee this is wrong, and you should be on my side to help fix it.
Yeah. What can you say about taxing the ever-loving Shisa out of the rich in order to fit, because they created this whole situation, right? Like, they created an environment where all of these people were able to exploit and manipulate and just crush the rest of us. So what do you think about setting, I don't know, 96% tax rate?
It's not unprecedented. That's happened in our history. I think not only should we address the tax rate to make it far more progressive, we need to tax wealth, because there's a lot of schemes that have been created within the law, loopholes that exist, allow people to get away with not paying any taxes. So just increasing a payroll tax or an income tax to 96% or 97% above a certain threshold, there's ways to hide that money elsewhere. So we need to close those loopholes and recognize that our system, this version of capitalism that we've arrived at, is one that has perfected extracting every extra penny from you and me. We have an economy and a system that is that there's not a dime that comes in that somebody doesn't have their eyeballs on for you, which means you can't save up. You can't afford a down payment on a house. You can't pass a nest egg on to your family unless you're extremely lucky. Well, I think that approach to figuring out a way to scrape every available penny from someone is the kind of scrutiny we should give to the tax code for the wealthy and for corporations. Figure out what we can take from them without crushing them. No, I don't want to put everybody out of business, right? Businesses should still exist. And I'm not begrudging someone for becoming wealthy, but at some point, you become a parasite on the system, and those who are parasitic on our system need to be contributing more. And we're not going to be able to do things we need to do unless we increase the taxes on them. We can't, our universal health care can only be afforded if we increase some tax revenues. We need to pay more into Social Security. Some people need to pay more into Social Security for it to survive. I've been paying for it since I turned 14 and a half and got my first job at $3.35 an hour. And when I turn, right now it's scheduled to not go defunct, but to lower payments or lower benefits in the same year I'm first eligible for it, which is, I take that personally. But the reason we have to fix it is not because of cases of retired colonels who are mad, right? There are people out there, disabled folks that are not in retirement age, and a ton of retired people who paid in that system deserve to be taken care of. The social safety net is worthy of preserving, and we need to preserve it for them. As bonus, I'll get some when I retire. If I do it right, my reward I'll get something out of it when it's all over.
I love that. Just a reminder, y'all, I would like for you to please tap up the screen as much as you can. We are at 40K likes already, which is amazing. And if we get to 100, that means It Takes a Village is going to contribute to this man's campaign. So very important that y'all keep tapping, stay engaged, keep the comments rolling. You guys are amazing for being here. Thank you so much. Jeff, if you don't mind, we need to do a little IT break for a moment
Okay.
because Joe is telling me that there's a promote thing that I need to do in order to help get you out some more. And I'm such a noob to this whole thing. I don't know what the heck he's talking about. So I'm going to bring him in really quick so he can walk me through it.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of get back to the question. So if you need to go grab a break, some peanuts or a little drink of water or something, I have an energy drink, then please do. It'll just be like a minute. Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joe, thank you so much for joining us and helping
Yeah, no problem.
my terrible technology invalid brain.
So, I'm assuming, I don't know what it is on your computer exactly, but it'll be live promotion tab or something promote, like maybe it's the fire icon
Yeah, I
somewhere.
checked there, and then it's like, so choose a promotion pack, and
Okay.
then you have to pay. Like, I have to pay money to do that. I would
Right,
rather
no,
give the
I've
money to
already
Jeff.
done that. I've already paid money. That's why I'm hold on.
So weird. So weird.
Is there, okay, can you see any of your settings, like any of your notifications?
There is a notification. There's a system notification that
Yes.
says, check out this person's strategy to see if you can get some more people to like you. And
That's
then
it?
there's like, it just doesn't tell me anything else. New highlight mix is ready. New weekly highlight mixes are available. Post your live highlights to reach more viewers.
That's the only system notification that showed up. So that's through It Takes a Village, right? That's weird because on my end it shows if I was to go to the promote, it says pending. It says once your request and order are approved, your promotion will begin.
That's really weird.
This also allows you to promote any video or live from this creator and view order details.
That's a really cool thing, though. I didn't know that was even a thing you could do.
Like it says if the request expires or is rejected, the remaining order amount will be refunded to your promote balance. So you should be able to accept from me in some way a promote thing to boost. I was trying to boost the viewers, really, is what I was trying to do.
Well,
So we
thank
can
you
get
for
more
that.
people in here. I don't know.
Interesting.
Outside of the system notifications.
Maybe it has to be approved by the TikTok gods and then it'll start over here or something.
It should show, you should be able to accept it and then it'll go to them, if that makes any sense.
I don't have anything to accept.
Okay.
Oh.
Journey might know.
I know, Jen. Where are you, Jen? Where are you, Jen?
She just came in, that's why.
Jeff, it looks like you have another invitation with Shadow Kitten to be a guest on their show. And yeah, you should talk to them.
Talking to me, dude. Was that for me?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Follow me, DM me. I would love that. As you can tell, I love talking. I maybe too much.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong at all with that. Okay,
Journey.
Joe.
Journey, can you walk her through how to find the promotion stuff? Because I sent her a request to promote.
We're trying to get
and
more
she
people
can't find
in
it.
for you, Jeff.
Ooh, Shadow Kitten did you? Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to take a look. Sorry, if I missed that DM, I apologize.
More viewers.
I posted it in the mod chat.
That'll crash this.
Through TikTok, the mod chat, the It Takes a Village mod chat.
I don't know where to find the mod chat.
You got to type in the. Well, no, I sent it to your account too. That way you could see it. But.
Okay. Is this something that we can do offline after the show, and then it'll start the next one, or?
I don't know.
I don't either.
That's why I'm like, I want to get it done now so it's done and over with and it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think we're probably going to need to take a look, after, so Jeff's not waiting
If it
for us.
refunds me and I can try it again.
Yeah, we'll try again on Friday. Yes, because we have somebody else from Oklahoma coming on Friday. It's like the week of Oklahoma.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I
Who's
think
coming up? Who is it?
who is it? Brandon? I don't remember his name. My team can tell me.
That's right. We need to put you on the
District
spot.
2.
District
District
2?
2. I think Wade.
Wade?
Yep. Wade
Looking
for
for Wade.
Congress, District 2.
Okay. There you go. District 2.
Nice.
So amazing. All right. Well, let's get back on track. Joe, we'll take a look at this after the show. Thank you so much for doing that, by the way. And
Not a problem.
yeah,
I appreciate you.
we'll chat about it. I appreciate it. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
No
Okay.
problem.
Meanwhile, we did give everybody a chance to keep tapping. So, that's a plus. We're almost to 50K. Keep on tapping, guys. We get to 100K and we're going to make a donation to Jeff's campaign because he's awesome and we need people like Jeff. Did you know that only 2% of Congress is of the working class? And that is a problem. That's a problem, guys. We got to fix that. So what do you think the people get wrong about the 4th District of Oklahoma? And can you tell me what part of your hatchet-shaped state that encompasses?
So the district begins basically just south of Oklahoma City, but it actually includes part of South Oklahoma City.
Mhm.
And then if you're looking at our state on a map, there's a I-44 goes southwest toward Wichita Falls, Texas, and I-35 goes almost due south to the Red River as well. So it's basically inside that. It branched out a little bit on each side, but so south central Oklahoma, 14 counties. About 30% of that is the 30% of the people in the district live in rural areas. So we have farmers, ranchers, cattle producers. We have oil, a couple military bases in the district as well. To major ones, Tinker Air Force Base and Fort Sill. What do people get wrong about it? That's a great one. The cost of living here in Oklahoma is very, very reasonable. In fact, it's one of the most attractive things about the state is it's affordable to live and retire here. People are underpaid though, so I think the assessment that this is a poor state is probably not true. But people do struggle with affordability here. With the minimum wage in Oklahoma is still only $7.25 an hour. We're going to change that. I hope on June 16th. The same ballot that my primary is, we're making a vote to raise that to 15, which would be a welcome and long overdue change.
Huge. Yeah, Jasmine Thomas was talking about that. Who, by the way, Jasmine Thomas is running for Senate, y'all. You should be voting for her too.
Jasmine's running for Senate here, and the rural nature of this part of the state or this district means that a lot of folks are impacted by hospital funding issues. So rural hospitals closing is a really big deal for folks. As far as misconceptions, I would say if there's one thing that people get wrong about this, and this is back to me being an optimist, I don't think people are as dead set on politics as they tend to believe. I think a lot of folks are in the closet in Oklahoma about politics, partially because it's gotten ugly, and partially just because of distaste for politics. There are more independents in the state than there in this district, than there are Democrats. And I think the people walking away from the two organized parties is kind of a symptom of people being disgusted with politics in general. So I don't think it's as much apathy as people think. I think people are just sick of the nonsense. So maybe a little bit of sanity from a campaign. And this is actually something that I was talking with one of my campaign staffers today about is politics getting ugly and personal is part of the problem. And that's true in the general election, of course, because the different parties are vying for the same seat. But I'm seeing a lot of that inside our party, and it's destructive and it's frustrating because I think some people come to it naturally because of ego or whatever. Some people are manipulated into it. I'll give you an example that's a little bit further away, so I don't get myself in trouble here in Oklahoma. I watch with significant alarm that the divide in Texas among Democrats between Tallarico and Crockett is growing and festering. It's not getting better; it's getting a little bit worse right now. Based on my assessment from up north here, that will destroy his campaign, and people need to get over it and find a way to love James Tallarico's campaign, even if you wish that Jasmine Crockett were your nominee. She's phenomenal. She is going to be a force to be reckoned with for the rest of her life in Texas, no doubt. But she's not going to be the senator.
Yeah,
not now.
Not now. And
Not
listen,
now,
listen.
right?
There are big things in the works for Jasmine. Okay, she's like an incredible fighter. She is so incredibly talented, and she speaks to so many issues that Texans are feeling. Right, and to be frank, and probably a little rude that people aren't going to like this. We don't have time for your feelings. We understand that that's the nature of election. That's the whole reason we have primaries. Okay, Tallarico's not a terrible candidate. He's been fighting for Texas for a very long time, and there's honestly nobody better to beat a white man. A white conservative man with his head shoved up his keister. John Cornyn, by the way, I will name him, than a progressive Christian white man in Texas. Like, I hate to say it, but that's the way that it is right now. And if we elect James Tallarico into office, we can move that needle closer to having a more diverse representation. But Texas isn't there yet.
Right. And so I know there's time to get it sorted out, but I really want them to come together. I know there's significant hurt feelings. That's okay. Great. Let's get past it. Let's have that discussion behind closed doors and work together to find a way to help him be successful. And I brought it up because one of the things that I'm proud of, and I think an example that others should follow is, before I announced my candidacy, I met the guy I'm running against in town here, and I pulled him aside and I told him I was probably going to run, and I knew I was going to run in my head, but I wasn't allowed to say that. I said I'm probably going to run. It's not personal, because he'd already announced, and I said, but here's my promise to you. 2 promises. Number 1, I'm never going to publicly besmirch your reputation or beat you down. This is about finding the best candidate, and I'm going to try and make the case for myself, but I'm never going to trash talk you. Number 2, if you beat me, I will make it my life's work to help you beat Tom Cole. And I wish more people would take that approach. And I think that those who do, I know this is true for me, and you can believe me or not, but this is the honest truth. The people who do that are people who are revealing that the run isn't about them. This isn't about me. Yeah, my name's on my poster, but that's not what this is about. It's not about me. This is about saving our country. And if Mitchell is a better candidate than me, proven by winning the primary, then I owe it to our country, not just my party. The Democratic Party. I mean, I'm a Democrat. That's fine, but nobody in DC knows my name. They don't care about me. They're not giving me any money. I'm doing this because I swore I would when I was 17 years old. I would defend our Constitution. Yeah. That's why I'm doing this. And I think if more people took that approach, I think the politics would suddenly miraculously clean up, because it would the hurt feelings reports and the bruised egos would be less dominant. Now, don't get me wrong. If I lose, I'll be mad, and sad at myself. I'll cry in my beer that night. But I'm gonna get to work the next day, because I owe it to my family and my neighbors and Oklahoma to win this fight, because Tom Cole's got to go.
And I think that is not, honestly, that's not said enough. I can't tell you how many grassroots candidates that we have spoken to that have lost their primary for one reason or another, and it's sour grapes. It's the people didn't want me. It's that, I can't believe that they primaried me in the first place. How dare they, et cetera, et cetera. Like, And it just makes my head want to implode. It's crazy to me that in this moment, when there's so much on the line, that they can't see past their nose.
Right. Well, back to our earlier conversation, I think some of them are being manipulated into it. I watch the conversation. I'm mostly on Threads for my social media, and I see people out there that are kind of shit stirrers. It seems like they've made it their job to go in and stir up discontent. Some user ABC 12345 suddenly with 12 viewers is out there telling someone they should hate their fellow Democrat, and then they disappear laughing as we beat each other up.
Yeah.
Fucking stop falling for it, y'all.
Yeah. We're on the same team. And shockingly enough, and I know people are going to have a hard time with this, and I need to listen to myself here as well. The right is also on the same team as us. Republicans are also on the same, we're all on the same team. Yeah, it's frustrating. I get that. So when you talk to voters, and I'm sure you're talking to them a lot, what kind of things are you saying to them that cuts through all of this bullshit? Like, what are you saying that gets, how are you reaching them? Tell us your tricks.
Well, so I'm quite unashamed about how I approach this with folks, because I think I have cracked the code on what is attractive to
I know what it is. It's a cattle prod, isn't it? It's the cattle prod.
No, it's not. Although if it comes down to it, when I knock on someone's door, right now I'm focused on the primary, so I'm knocking on doors. It's all Democrats, but I've spoken to plenty of Republicans. When I first launched the campaign, it was county fair season, so going to county fairs, and anybody walked up, I would talk to them. Some were Republicans, a lot of them were Republicans. My secret is, in my interactions, I always lead with who I am as a person. I'm a veteran. Raised my kids, on the road for our country, and what I did in the Air Force. I always lead with that because it kind of defines me. I'm sitting in essentially a museum I've built in my career. But the real reason I do that is not necessarily to establish credibility, because not everybody cares that much about the details of my service. But it breaks down a wall because people have a natural, and I think, a welcome kind of respect for military service. And once I get that wall down, I can get a little bit of hook into them, and they see me as a human being first. I don't lead with, "Hi, I'm a Democrat running for Congress." I don't walk around with a name tag that says Democrat on it. I just introduce myself as a veteran and then I say, here's what I believe in, and here's what I'm hoping to do. And some folks will respond, kind of quizzically. Like, well, I had a guy, actually my first campaign event I did was a county fair, and a guy said, he asked me why I was a Democrat. And I had never thought, how I was going to answer that question. So, the first thing that popped in my head was, because my mom taught me empathy when I was a little kid. And that's not a great answer. I realize now, because it's an accusation. But the more important question, is if I tell people what I really believe, and they know it's coming from my heart, and it's not a campaign speech, although I use it on a campaign. It's not national party line that is that I'm parroting. It's me as a fellow Oklahoman saying, here's what we need to work on, and I think I'm the guy to do it. If I make a compelling case, then they just might vote for me, and I'll take that. I consider that a win. And I actually had a guy tell me once, we got through a lengthy conversation. He was, I wouldn't say hostile at first, but extremely suspicious of me. And we waded through a lot of kind of really important to him issues before I finished my little speech to him, or my conversation with him, which kind of made me sound like a stump speech. When he got done, he leaned into me, we were in a crowded setting at the county fair. He leaned into me just in my ear. He says, if you were a Republican, I'd vote for you. And I said, sir, don't you think I know that? Don't you know how easy it would have been for me,
yes,
a 53-year-old white dude with military service, to pretend to be a Republican in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
I could have, it would have been an entirely different race, but it would have been based on a line. I wasn't willing to do that. And you're just going to have to trust me, like you always have. You just didn't know it, to do the right thing for you, even though we have a different letter after our name. And, he didn't walk away saying, okay, you convinced me, I'm going to vote for you. But what it proved to me was the problem isn't policy. The problem is the human connection and the distrust. So I'm determined to find ways to connect with people in a way that's authentic, that doesn't hide the fact that I'm a Democrat. I don't apologize for being a Democrat, but I recognize that we as Democrats have dug ourselves a pretty deep hole in this state by ignoring the rural voters, by being openly hostile toward things that really matter to them. And a good example is, the oil and natural gas industry, which is extremely important in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I'm a tree hugger. I'm a progressive dude, and I want solar panels on every roof. I want to go green because I know the science is real, and if we don't do something, our great grandchildren are gonna curse us.
Yeah.
But you can't. There are people in this state who put their food on the table and a roof over their head in the oil and natural gas industry. I'm not talking about big oil execs. I'm talking about regular working class, busting their ass people who are feeding their children with that money. And there's no way I'm going to make a moral case to them that's going to be so compelling that they starve their children. I have to make an economic case to them. I have to make it attractive to them to transition to new energy, to a new way of doing business. I have to train them. I have to be kind with them, because there's a it's a cultural thing. And that sounds like I'm talking down on them. I'm not. It is part of our culture in this state. Oil, natural gas, farming, ranching, those are part of what Oklahoma is. And when you ask those people to describe Oklahoma, that's what they're talking about. They don't mention the university town and our high-tech aviation, aerospace industry. Those matter too, but the culture of Oklahoma are those other things. And any politician who ignores that does so at their own peril. So my goal is to connect with them, help them. I want them to know that I do care about what their life is like. And while we may disagree on some key issues, there are things we do agree on. And if we just get out of our own way and stop letting partisan politics stop us from doing the right thing, we can get a lot accomplished. And that's another thing we need to fix in Congress. There's a lot of stuff in Congress that only doesn't happen, not because it's a bad policy, but because the parties know that if they let that happen, then they give a win to the other side. And we will shoot ourselves in the foot over and over again to rob them of a win. And I'm done with that. I'm fucking done with that. And
it's so frustrating.
If we go, and there's countless cases of us doing that. And, I don't care who gets the credit. What I care about is that we fix this. And if my I don't care what my tombstone says, other than he went down swinging. That's what I wanted to say.
I want mine to say she owed me a lot of money. So it's right now we don't have a functioning Congress. We just don't. There's so many things that they could do that they actually agree on, right? But they won't work together. And it's maddening because they could fix so many things for so many people, but they can't see past their nose.
Well, and part of that is because, and we haven't talked about this yet, but it's a really important issue, campaign finance reform. Citizens United has put all the power in the hands of the millionaires. So it may not be that they don't want to give the other side a win necessarily, although I think that's true from just being buttholes perspective. But there's also their handlers and funders will get mad at them if they do the right thing. And they'll say, well, I'm not going to fund you. And that's another reason we have to get rid of Citizens United, and we need serious campaign finance reform. We shouldn't allow people to self-fund campaigns. I think I don't know if $3,500 is the right number, but right now the federal campaign contribution limit individual is $3,500. Anybody who gives more than that to their own campaign, I think is buying their office just by another name. So I think the individual contribution should apply to the candidate themselves, and you shouldn't be able to. A millionaire shouldn't be able to walk in and take over a race, because I'm not a millionaire, but even if I could definitely have given more than I have, but I've capped my own contribution at $3,500. I've been going at this 8 months. I'm not even halfway there right now.
Yeah. I think that's incredibly important, and things like APAC shouldn't exist, right? Like, we should not, especially from a foreign country, getting their fingers in all of these politicians and pulling the strings. They have the I country has universal health care. You know, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
How much money do we give them? We give them so much money. It's ridiculous. So absolutely, it's something that needs to change. In Oklahoma, are they talking about data centers at the same level that they're doing it here in Texas? Because I feel like that is something that needs to be regulated on a congressional level.
Yeah, it's a huge conversation here. None have been pulled off in our district, but there is serious fear about it. We already have environmental problems in the state, some related to oil and natural gas, some just related to aquifers drying up. Power being at a premium. It's already expensive to buy electricity here, so it is definitely an issue here. I wish it was. I don't know what form that federal regulation can take, and I know that there's a way to do that. I prefer a world. Honestly, I prefer a world, and again, we're going back to how big a check someone can write, and suddenly your county commissioner or the mayor or the governor will overlook or waive some requirement. So that's probably the reason it needs to be federal regulation, because until you do that, you're always going to find somebody at some level corrupt enough to take a big fat check and then destroy a community or run power through the roof. So what would that regulation look like? I can imagine ones where any increased energy costs in the state are offset 100% by the data center. So the average consumer pays no dollars more for it. The water thing is a little bit harder, because it's one of those things that you don't know. And Americans, we've proven ourselves incapable of even seeing evidence that's right in front of us. But I fear that they'll do the hand wave and say, don't worry, the water's going to be fine, and then go, oops, we had to shut down our data center because we can't cool our stuff. And by the way, you're also out of drinking water. So I don't know. I don't have the technological background to know how likely that is. But if a nonstop flow of water to cool something needs to exist, then go put it in the ocean.
Yeah,
right? Go take it somewhere else.
Why? I just don't understand why that's a thing. I feel like we're at a weird point right now where technology is outpacing everything. Right?
It's outpacing good sense.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. It's going to be a bubble. This is my prediction. If I put on my prediction hat here. I'll tell you that the versions of AI I have seen, the consumer-focused AI, that they're going to turn into a subscription service to all of you. Those who become addicted to it, be warned. It's not going to be free forever.
Nope.
And you're going to get, just that much more money scraped off the top, making you not have money for your kids' college. But it's also not very intelligent. This is the story I tell folks. I had in my job at the university before I retired, I had a full subscription that allowed me full ChatGPT access. And just out of curiosity, because I knew my students were using ChatGPT, only check this out and see what it's capable of. So the experiment I did was I took my military biography, which is a military formatted thing with my picture and when I was stationed where and what education I have and all that nonsense. I fed that into ChatGPT, and my instruction was, using this document and anything you can find about me on open source on the internet, write a biography for me that would be consumable by an average person. You may civilianize my bio, turn it into a little story. And I hit submit, and literally 2 seconds later, out comes a 3-page bio. I'm like, holy crap. And I started reading it, and in paragraph 1, I was mesmerized. I'm like, holy crap, this thing is spot on. Every word was right. Everything it said was correct. He's bold, and he's handsome, and he's indomitable, right? All the stuff I want to hear. And then in the second paragraph, it says, until that fateful day when he had to eject from his F-16. I'm like,
what?
I didn't eject from F-16. I would remember that, I promise. So that was like the record scratch moment for me on AI. I'm like, this thing, all it's doing is it sees patterns and spits them back out, and we're falling for it. So for the consumer facing thing, it's problematic. I know that, big data and really advanced computing can tackle some important issues, right? There are people out there doing drug formulation simulations that require massive amounts of data crunching. Hey, if they're going to cure pancreatic cancer with a data center, build a data center to cure pancreatic cancer.
Yes.
If you're gonna build a data center to make, cartoon porn, P word, pornography,
Thank you.
then you can't have my water for that. I'm so sorry.
Right. Well, and then there's other things too, like the tax on the infrastructure of the areas that they're planning to put these things. They're not creating jobs, but they're going to make a ton of money, and they're getting tax breaks on top of that. So why are they getting all of these, like, why are we paying for why is this all on our backs, right?
We fall for that all the time, though.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Because cities and municipalities are always strapped for cash, and if someone comes in and promises some big thing with some jobs and this boon, we fall for it. We give them the tax breaks, and then what invariably happens is at some point it goes away, and what you're left with is a hulk of an ugly building that's useless with probably some pollution in and around it, an eyesore, or something that attracts vandalism and criminal activity, and I don't know, flying monkeys, I don't know, all the things that can go bad. So I think this is back to like how to plan for this. There needs to be ironclad, built into the contract provisions to stop it from affecting people's power availability, power cost, their water availability, water cost, water quality. The other thing I would argue, if I were a mayor or somebody in the power to make this decision, I would insist that the data center be built with the future state of it as a public space. When they invariably go out of business, what does it turn into? I want to be ready to become a indoor park or a school or a library or something, because I know it's going away.
Yeah.
It needs to be ready built to be I want you to build me a flippin' awesome library and then put your data racks in it. And when the data system bubble pops, move your data racks out. We'll load the bookshelves. We have a brand new library. That's the version of that I would accept, but I'm not a city planner. What do I know?
I know, right? I really wish that more people who are in charge of stuff like that, especially city council members and stuff, would hold their feet to the fire more to do more for the communities that they're trying to impact, instead of what can our town do for this data center. It's what can this data center do for us, and that's what it should be every time. So I really think that's something that needs congressional regulation. So yeah, it's something to think about when you're up in Congress with all your congressional friends. So okay, let's get back on track, because I want to talk to you about the primary and the path forward that you're on. You're in a Democratic primary. How are you distinguishing yourself from Mitchell, who's your opponent? And what do you want voters to understand about your campaign specifically?
The way I distinguish myself between me and Mitchell is that I always first make sure people understand that he and I are on the same team. The way I characterize us is we're two quarterbacks trying out for the starting position on the same team. And I'm not about tearing him down. What I think the point I want to make to voters as they're trying to decide between two of us, he's also a veteran, by the way. He spent 5 years in the Army. When I try to help people understand is, for a Democrat to win in this district is going to require a tremendous leap of faith by a bunch of independents and Republicans who may have never voted for a Democrat before. And the not just 35 years of military experience, but the different levels of authority and responsibility I had over the years, and the expertise I have in leading large organizations, in dealing with government contractors, in no-fail missions like the nuclear enterprise, the working for Air Force One. I've worked with the White House. I have stood with members of Congress in both the House and the Senate. I've worked with foreign governments. All the things that the military gave me the chance to do over the years was, accidentally preparing me to walk into Congress on day one as a freshman who doesn't look, talk, or walk like a freshman. Someone who can hit the ground running and can stand toe-to-toe with any member of the House, any member of the executive branch, and have an adult conversation about issues based on decades of experience doing those things. I also have expertise in the military industrial base, which is how we mobilize for conflicts with an emphasis on ethics and space. But those are separate topics, which are, I think, both critical things moving forward. Ethics in government is huge, and space obviously is a monster topic. So I've been equipped, thanks to the taxpayers and the Air Force blessing me with such a great career, to hit the ground running in DC and be that trauma surgeon that we're going to need right away. And I think that's a recipe for trust from the Republicans and independents that I know.
Yeah, I think that the media has done a really bang up job of pitting Republicans against Democrats. There's been a lot of, a lot of BS, for lack of a better term, that's being said about both sides. And it makes it really, really difficult for people to trust the other side of the aisle, right? Because the media has been feeding that rage machine for over a decade now. So how do you get around that?
It's maintain the moral high ground by setting a good example, right? So not fall for the traps. And I would say I don't get animated. I'll get animated if someone's clearly wrong, I'll call them wrong. But I try to avoid personality attacks, and I also try to and I kind of preach this in my campaign trail too, is because there are a lot of folks out there that they'll point at the people on the right, and they get extremely angry with what they've allowed to happen or what they seem to have encouraged to happen. But here's the deal, and I know that you know this, but I feel it's something we need to remind ourselves of once in a while. Every person you meet has arrived at the person they are through a completely predictable series of events in their life that determine the outcome. And that we do make choices along the way, but when you peel it back, everything about a person has something that made that true about them at some point. Some of those things are within their control, some are not. So it's not to relieve people the responsibility from going down the wrong path. But when someone believes something that is is wrong, that is incredibly silly, taking a beat to remember that they may have been exposed only to one very biased media source for years.
Yeah.
And yes, we can shame them for not broadening their horizons, but not everybody is brought up to be so critical. Not everybody has enough time in the day or money in the bank to worry about how much time am I spending researching this and fact checking this? How many sources do I need to check to make sure I don't accidentally say someone wrong online? I mean, I think that's asking too much of a lot of people, given the day to day how hard it is to just exist as an American. So I say all that to say that I try to give people a little bit of grace. I'm not going to forgive people for being scoundrels, but if someone is just wrong about something and they're willing to have a grown-up conversation with me, I'm going to have that conversation with them. And if we do that effectively, we'll set the good example, and maybe we'll get people to just look at some of the stuff that the resources that we trust, and maybe there'll be a world where they point out something that we have wrong. There's a chance that I'm wrong about something. I don't know. I have blind spots that I'm unaware of. That's why they're called blind spots. So if we're not willing to admit that might be true about us, then we're really no better than the people we criticize most harshly.
Yeah, and I think that it's hard to find people, especially on these TikTok streets, right, who are willing to have a genuine conversation. Most of the time, they just want to rage bait and, poke the bear and yell at each other and insult each other's, appearance and stuff.
Yeah, the thing is, it feels good, but it accomplishes nothing.
Right.
When the adrenaline dies down, you're back where you were before. We haven't moved the ball downfield, so I'm all about making actual progress. And you asked, I failed to answer the second half of your previous question about and what we're doing going forward. Going forward, we have 50 days or it's 49 now. 50 days until the primary. I'm out there trying to introduce myself to folks to make sure that I've met as many people as I can. I can't meet everybody. I'm trying to do things like this to get my name out there and, raising money to keep the lights on in my campaign so my staff actually can put food on their table. So
Yes.
I do appreciate the opportunity to be on your side. I'm outroing myself right now. I don't mean to.
I was gonna say,
but I really appreciate being on your show because because I'm not taking money from corporate donors or PACs, they're not that they're offering, but they will. Once I win the primary, they're going to come out of the woodwork.
Yes, they
I'm
are.
not going to take
Snooze
that
ya.
money, which means I rely on non-traditional sources to get the word out. And this, even though there's a handful of people that can't vote for me, if you clip any of this and post it and we spread it out, if I said something clever enough to get some attention, it always helps. And I've gotten donations from last count 31 states. I'm sure it'll grow with each passing week. So the way forward is to continue to do the right thing, and if as it resonates, then I'm going to try and get more attention. And then once I win the primary, then the real hard battle begins, because it'll be not me versus Mitchell. He and I both started with no money. It'll be me versus a guy who already has $5 million in the bank on day one. That's gonna be a big hill to climb, and I'm not gonna outraise him. So I'm just gonna have to, be right more often and be on your show more often.
Honestly, everything you say is inspirational and brilliant. So we could clip anything and throw it out there.
That's a great clip. I like that.
Yeah, and everything that comes out of your mouth is just so. So what does winning your primary actually look like to you strategically? What kind of coalition are you building right now?
So right now I'm in the process of doing something that I find extremely frustrating. This is actually one of the things I learned as a candidate. I didn't know much about, or anything really, about running a campaign before I launched. So like an asshole, I thought that endorsements came from people judging you based on your competence, your character, and the policy positions you took. That turns out none of those things matter to a lot of folks. The first question you're often asked when you're requesting an endorsement from an organization or from a person is, how much money do you have in the bank? And then you end up with the chicken and the egg problem, right? You're like, well, I don't have any money because nobody is going to tell me that I'm a good guy. And I say, well, once you have money, I'll tell you that people are good guys. So, well, by then it's going to be too late. So that was my early frustration. We have a primary too, this is the other thing that surprised me. Because there's a primary, there's a lot of folks who are restricted by party rules of taking a side. So the people who follow rules within the Oklahoma Democratic Party stay neutral, they say nothing. And even if I privately have had conversations like, you're my guy, they're not going to say anything. And of course I don't betray that to anybody. So now I'm in the process of securing the endorsements from people who are not in the party but are ready to make a decision to help me get across the finish line. Because if, in fact, I have the endorsement of two of the people who have previously run for this position.
Oh, really?
So they're both coming out on my side, and the reason that matters is because waiting until after the primary victory to say you're on my side if you're a Democrat says nothing. In fact, I think that speaks volumes about their assessment. So that I'm getting endorsements now. The point of that at this point in the race is for them, their network of people who trust them, these people who aren't addicted to politics like me, who don't even know the day of the primary off the top of their head, which I can't even believe that's true. But some people don't even know there's a primary in June. Their network is going to be influenced by them. They'll look at my website, and I know that's working because more and more I'm getting interactions online from new people. So my strategy now is to keep doing what we're doing, knock more doors, take advantage of social media. We're doing a little bit more phone dialing campaigns. Actually, I have Madison's been phone banking for me. She called from she did 80 phone calls the other day from the West Coast on my behalf.
Nice.
We're doing those things. It's old school shoe leather politics plus some new school stuff, social media. As you know, I'm fairly tech savvy, but I'm a social media neophyte. So I rely on Madison to be my Yoda and talk me through these things. So I'm trying to do all those things, and because I don't have enough money to do a poll. It'd be crazy to spend money on a poll when I need to put money on watches. So what that means is on the 9th to 16th, I'm going to literally be in a local bar in Norman, and as the polls close, there'll be a drum roll, and we'll see how it goes.
Amazing. So I have some ideas for you. Okay. First of all, writing the letters to the editor to your local newspapers is free, and they love stuff like that. So
you're right. They should. It's hard to get through in Oklahoma. They don't like to platform candidates. All my press releases so far have been thrown in the garbage. But you're right. That is a thing in the regular world.
Yeah. So that's something but you can also do like coffee shops. I don't know if you've got a lot of coffee shops in your district, but maybe like every Wednesday morning you do a coffee with Jeff. And
we called it Java with Jeff. We've done that too. Yep, we've done that.
I love that. Yes. So that's also something you could do. Yeah, there's a ton of things. And the other thing too, I'm going to invite you. I see you, Shadow. I see you, girl. Is we do probably once a quarter, maybe a little bit more often. We get a bunch of you guys together to share resources and to talk about, how your races are different and to bounce ideas off of each other. And to, if somebody's got an endorsement from like a union group, then they can share that information. So when we do that, we would love to have you back.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
So that you could meet some of these people that you're hopefully going to be working with, right? It's going to be super duper important. So let's talk about talk to action, for lack of a better term. I said earlier that TikTok and honestly a lot of these political spaces can get stuck in talk mode. So let's fix that. What are the real actions that people can take right now to support you from anywhere in the country? And you mentioned phone banking works from anywhere.
Right.
And Madison's doing that for you. And I think that's fantastic. Way to go, Madison. But what else can people do?
What people can do, first of all, they go to my website, pixleyforcongress.com. The link's in my bio if you check it out there. Go to pixleyforcongress.com. There's a place to sign up as a volunteer there, just so I know you exist. You can also send an email, but filling out the form saying you exist is step one. So I can reach out to you. We have through that volunteer list, when people volunteer for that, you'll be placed on our short list of folks like, hey, we're going to do phone banking, whether it's remote or in person. Or we're going to do door knocking, which is obviously in person. But go to the website first and check it out. There's also on my website, there's a media page where I post any videos that I've made or that interviews I've done. If someone didn't hear a question asked at this on your show, they can watch probably hours of other talk on the website. The other thing people can do, and I hate to say this, my campaign manager will turn over in his grave if I don't. People, if they want to contribute to the campaign, they can do so via Act Blue. You'd be surprised at how $5 a month between now and November, how big a difference that makes. Because you may feel like $5 is nothing. What's the point? But $5 will put 3 pieces of mail in someone's inbox. And it takes 7 pieces of mail, 5 to 7 pieces of mail for someone to actually pay attention. It's one of the most expensive things you can do besides buy a Super Bowl ad. And spread that across TikTok. This is why I think there's so much promise in social media. Is you have a 1,500 or 2,000 followers. If every one of your followers were to give me $5, that is instantly going to make this month a phenomenal month. If each one of them sent a note to each one of their followers saying, hey, I saw this video, Jeff, you should consider giving $5, buy Jeff a cup of coffee, basically, right? So yes. Stick your Starbucks, say, buy Jeff a cup of coffee at Starbucks between now and November. That kind of pyramid scheme almost effect, right? So one person goes to 10 people, goes to 1,000 people.
MLM
can really make a difference. And that's how AOC and Bernie Sanders, it's not necessarily to TikTok, but that's grassroots organizing, and it doesn't have to be maybe the most important point for someone to take away is you don't have to live in the 4th district to care about this race. You may care about it because America, red, white, and blue, and you're a patriot like me. But maybe more practically speaking, Tom Cole is the chair of the House Appropriations Committee. He's one of the most powerful people in Congress. And every day he's on the job, America is suffering. And it's partially his fault because he's letting it happen, or he's an active participant. You helping me get rid of Tom Cole helps you everywhere in the country. So, if you care about politics, then that may be enough motivation for you to donate to my campaign. But the last thing I'll say, and I want to make sure, because it's limited resource, locally, there's probably a good Dem run into. Please support your local Democrats. Find out who they are. You can easily find that information online. If you have to choose between supporting your local House candidate and me, I wouldn't begrudge you supporting them. But if you can support both of us, that'd be great too.
Definitely. And I just want to just really quick take a pause, and we made 100,000 likes, guys. Thank you so much for tapping. We are going to be able to donate to Jeff's campaign, and I'm going to tell you how we've been able to do that in just a little bit. And I think you're going to like it because it's kind of a little out of the box thinking here. So, yeah. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you so much for all of that hard work. I want to ask you an important question, because we have about 80 million people who stayed home in 2024. Okay. And we also have a ton of people right now who feel very invested in what is happening, but they're watching a train wreck and they can't look away. And they're motivated to do something about it, but they have no freaking idea where to start. So how do you reach those people? What's the first step that you want them to take tonight?
What I would love them to do is go Google their whatever county they're in, Democratic Party. I was a political junkie before I retired, but I had no idea how the party was organized or how they marshaled supporters to go do stuff. It's through county level parties and precincts in your area. So find your county level party, and if you can't find that, go to your state party and click on their website and drill down until you find your local party. And the reason this is super important is because your local party, your county party is probably run mostly by a handful of volunteers. And if it's like Oklahoma, and this is no shade to them, but this is how it is in Oklahoma. It's 75-year-old women who've been busting their asses as Democrats for the last 50 years, who thought they won all these battles in their youth.
Yeah.
Are now still the ones running the show. And we need young people, to the TikTok generation, to go to the county party and show up and meet these people in person and get trained and help them turn that around, because we can't, these women are they need to hand the baton off to us when they're ready, and they're not going to do it until they think it's in good hands. So we need to go rebuild the local parties. And that's not to say that organizing and going to a No Kings or whatever you're going to do, via your social media, folks, is not worthy. But the party structure needs people in it, and that means active volunteers going and showing. So go to they probably have a monthly meeting. It's going to be weird. Some of the weird stuff we do here in Oklahoma, like we go to these meetings, we're like, okay, everybody stand. We do the Pledge of Allegiance, which is weird to me, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares that they're doing the Robert's Rules of Orders and taking motions? What matters most is they're the ones that are going to make the magic happen. Yeah. And they need your help and support. So please, for the love of goodness, go find your local Democratic Party and volunteer. Meet those folks and volunteer. I promise, if you're under 60 years old, they're going to be thrilled to meet you.
They're going to be thrilled. And poll watchers, especially right now with all of the shit going on, we need poll watchers desperately.
Yep.
So make sure that you get in touch with your county precinct and find out how you can become a part of the solution. Guys, it's really, really important. Hi, Lisa. Hi there. I just saw my friend come in. Okay, what does meaningful support look like to you beyond donations? Like, what else can people do, especially right now in this economy? What can people do to support you?
Great question. The most important thing they can do is spread the word, and that is not necessarily within the district, but even outside the district. Because those people who have struggled to make ends meet probably aren't given to a political campaign. But if they spread the word, not just about me specifically as a candidate, although that helps me, and that's gonna help it blow up here and more people know my name, because there's a real the fact is, I know this will be true. There will be thousands, or if not tens of thousands of people who on June 16th show up to vote, and they're going to get to my election, and they will have never heard of either of us. And that's not because we're bad at campaigning; it's just that's the nature of things. I need to drive that number as low as possible, so they at least have heard my name before. And you'd be amazed at how a simple Facebook post, a clip, something like this, or taking a quote and putting it out there, or a friend sharing doing a friend request, like, follow, share stuff. That is huge to break through. So there's just that name recognition. It doesn't have to be, vocal support. Someone doesn't have to be a total cheerleader. But if they've heard my name a couple times, there's a chance they're going to the voting booth like, I don't remember why I like him, but I think that's my guy. And that may get me across the finish line for the primary. When it comes to general, it's going to be an even bigger fight. I think the name recognition I'll have it among Dems, but it'll be about making the case for my campaign. And that's going to be kind of up to me. But between now and then, spread the word and tell folks. And the other thing I say is, it's not just about me. One of the most important things that people need to understand is if you are interested, if you're not interested in politics, politics is interested in you, and you are impacted by it. So by getting involved, by talking about my campaign, you are motivating other people to get involved in their way, whatever that is. And it may just cause someone to look at, oh, who's running in my area? Do we have a primary too? That just talking about politics from a what are we going to do about it is really important. You don't have to have necessarily a hard-hitting policy discussion. You don't have to be a political science major to matter. Just realizing that your vote is your voice, and if everybody decides, well, I'm gonna use it, and let's talk about the service level. That's a win for America. Back to your point about how many people stay home. Let's get people deciding they want to vote and mark their calendars. June 16th, November 3rd.
Yeah, definitely. And in something that people don't understand, especially in the environment that we are in right now, is that grassroots candidates the system isn't built to allow grassroots candidates to succeed, right? And that's not a bug. That's the feature. They don't want people like us in Congress. They don't want regular people like Jeff in Congress who knows how much a bottle of milk costs. Like, they don't want that. They want people in Congress who are going to keep the wealthy wealthy, and they're going to keep the rest of us running on the little wheel of life, So that money has to come from somewhere, guys. So whether it is a like, a share, make sure you're following Jeff, make sure you're sharing out this live, talk about this race. I don't care if you're in Minnesota. I don't care if you're in California. I don't care if you are in Florida and you are living with the Gators. Don't care. You guys can be talking about this race. This is super duper important, and get plugged in, because flipping a district like this doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people like you decide that it matters. Okay. So, yeah, very important. So I've got 2 more questions for you, and then I'm going to transition it over to our audience to ask a few questions. I've been kind of saving them as they've been sprinkling them in. So I don't know how much time you have. Certainly don't want to keep you forever. But if you can, yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, I've got 2 more questions. And I want to talk about hope and reality, because in this moment, especially with everything that we're being hit with, I compare it to, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Well, we aren't being hit with straws. We're being hit with the whole effing camel. Like, it's just repeated, right? So be honest with us. What keeps you going in a race like this?
I say this all the time on the campaign trail, so it's going to sound very rehearsed. That's because I keep saying this. Mm-hmm. What keeps me going this race is when I was 17 years old, I joined the military and I took an oath to the Constitution. And that oath, if you've heard it before, it ends with the words, "So help me God." It doesn't end with "until further notice" or "terms and conditions apply." It ends with, and I'm not a particularly religious guy, so I don't want to go. I'm not saying it from that perspective. What I'm saying is, I've only made really 3 oaths in my life. My enlistment oath when I was 17, my marriage vows to my wife Andrea of 35 years, and my officer's oath I took when I became an officer in the Air Force. And I intend to keep all of those for my whole life, no matter what. And this campaign is me upholding that oath, because the Constitution is at risk right now. And I laid out all the stuff the Air Force has done for me to prepare me. The Air Force has accidentally prepared me to be a congressman with the insight, knowledge, expertise, and integrity that we need right now. And I don't think that's an accident. I don't really believe it's an accident. I believe that military service breeds leaders. And I wake up in the morning realizing that the gifts I got in the military. My childhood dream of flying fighters and doing all the things I got to do, travel the world and all the cool shit I got to do. That was the upfront payment, and now I owe the country this. And it's going to be hard. Right now, everybody loves me, right? I talk to most of the Democrats like, "Oh, we love you," and people, strangers hug me and stuff. That's all going to change when I win the primary, and nearly half the state is going to decide categorically that I'm a piece of shit, and and I hate something that they love. And I know that's coming, but what keeps me going is I know that's not true. And I've been in positions before as a commander where I was doing the right thing, and it was incredibly unpopular, but it was still the right thing. And it turns out that the pain and suffering and the gray hairs that come from that are a small price to pay for being able to look yourself in the mirror and saying, I did the right thing. I went down swinging. When I said I promised, I meant it.
And honestly, it's not about, I mean, I know it feels like it in this moment, it really feels like there's a ton of pressure to change things, because this is, a lot of people's first fascism, for lack of a better term. But I really think that it's important I'm sorry, somebody sent me something and I lost my thought. Oh my gosh, have you ever had that moment? I'm sure it'll come back to me. It's a really important point to make too. So I'm sure that it'll come back to me, because it is super important. It's, squirrel brain here. So all the time. Lisa says all the time. So, yeah. There was another question that I had for you. Hang on. Let me get back there. All right. So, we're moving towards November, right? That was the point I was going to make. I knew it was going to come back. So it's not about like winning or losing. And it feels like that right now because we are in the soup, right? It's just about moving the needle a little bit. If you could move the needle a little bit, and then the next person, and this is why purity politics makes me want to claw my eyes out, right? It's not about getting your perfect candidate. It's about getting closer to your version of perfection every single time. You're not going to get perfect every time, right? It's about getting a little bit closer to a perfect nation that works for everybody. I feel like we're in a unique position right now that we are definitely going to, the blue wave is going to just everything. But even if you don't win this time, you're moving the needle, right? And that is huge, especially in the Bible Belt, especially when Republicans in districts like ours are so rooted in what they know and what they're comfortable with.
Right. You're spot on. And, there's actually a political strategy called lose by less. And I reject lose by less as a strategy. I play to win, but I also am a realist. I know there's a chance I'm going to lose. And while I put that aside and I'm playing to win, I do recognize that the needles move in a couple of ways. And a really important way for Oklahoma is if I run a campaign of integrity that has a credible campaign based on integrity and all the stuff that we've talked about, and I support and elevate the candidates down ballot from me in the state house races, state senate races that are also competing, and we collectively set an example of what public servant focused politics taking care of the people looks like, and we can repair some serious reputational damage that the Democrats have faced here. That is a win. That doesn't even move the policy needle, but it moves the perspective that people have about who we are and what we stand for. And if at the end of this campaign, if 6 months ago, if you asked the average Oklahoma Republican, describe or tell me about a Democrat, they would say AOC, Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani, or somebody. One of the boogeymen that they've created in their heads about these, to them, awful people. Now, these are people I look up to and respect and would love to work with and emulate in many ways. But their style of politics doesn't fly in Oklahoma.
Right.
What if I do this well by November 3rd, if someone asks, tell me about a Democrat, they're going to say, they may not say Jeff Pixley, but they're going to say veterans, public servants focused, rational people that, we disagree about some things, but, at their core, they love our country and want to do better.
Yeah.
That's a win. Even if we don't change policy immediately, I think that'll help us, because a lot of stuff we've already talked about is about how we treat each other and how we perceive each other. So that reputational damage control, remediation is good work. In the ideal world, we get the best of both worlds. I win and we get repaired that damage, and then we continue to build on that with good staff, good policy, good outreach, transparency, being available and present in the communities that we serve with town halls, and take the heat when they want to bring it.
Yes.
Those things all build to a 2028 where people are a little bit less cynical, maybe a little bit more hopeful in our politics, and that's a good thing. And there's people fighting against that, but it's and it's frustrating sometimes. You feel like you're spitting into the wind, but it's a battle worth fighting.
And I think that it's worth mentioning too that the Democrats, as we've been labeled for lack of a better term, are people like teachers. They're teachers like Matt Gromlich, who's running against Mike Johnson in Louisiana. They're people like first responders, like Bernard Taylor, who's running in Florida. These are people that we count on every single day that are showing up to represent us. And I know it's easy to demonize an idea that you've been fed, but I think that the reality needs to be touted. It needs to be advertised more. That it's not that we're not terrible people. We're neighbors. We're your neighbors. We're your librarians. We're your nurses. We're people like, gosh, all kinds of, I could name so many regular people just like you who are running for Congress. It's really important. So before we move forward to November, what I want to ask is, how does success shape you? What does it look like for you, not just for you, but for this movement that you're building? And how does it, regardless of the outcome of November, how does it continue forward?
Yeah, so the success for me, besides winning the campaign, I've already alluded to this, is we need to build our bench here of young people. And there's a good crop of folks. We have a Young Democrats group here in Oklahoma that's doing great work with some really outstanding young people. I have one of them on my staff. I've already mentioned Madison, but I think what success looks like is we not only run a great campaign, but we turn, and the Oklahoma Democratic Party is doing this now under a new administration that changed over last year. Our tradition had been kind of the ODP, the Democratic Party of the state, would work in bursts. Like, okay, it's election year, ramp up and then ramp down, and there was all these hills and valleys. We can't do that anymore. This is a year-round 365 business of building volunteer base, doing outreach, doing education, building trust, and building our team and developing a bench of people ready to take on to take office at all levels, not just at Congress, from city council all the way up to the presidency. So success means building that and continuing to nurture that. And that's true whether we win or lose. We have to keep fighting. We may come up short. There may be a blue wave, but not a blue tsunami. If that's true, then we're gonna take our lessons learned from the states and places where we were successful, and we're gonna apply those here and do our best to work on it. But we can't do is give up on any place. And this kind of goes back to the baseline of this whole conversation, right? This is a red state, and it's going to stay a red state if we give up on ourselves. And I'm not going to do that. I know we're not nearly as red as the election results suggest. So if we give up, the self-fulfilling prophecy will come true. So let's keep fighting.
I mean, Tarrant County has some words to say about, being a solidly red district. I don't know if you're familiar with Tarrant County, Texas, but what happened down here was incredible. And if it proves that even in the reddest in the reddest districts, you can still make headway. So I think it's great. All right, guys, we are going to switch over to asking your guys' questions now. And I think it's really cool. So if you have a question for Jeff, type it in the chat, okay? And I'm going to start with a question that actually came at the beginning of the show, and we haven't had time to address it because I have a squirrel brain, so sorry about that. What is your stance, Jeff, on Oklahoma University's discrimination of Mel Kurth, who's trans?
Oh yeah, the professor here at OU.
Yes.
So I was I'm gonna have to give a little backstory as you're gonna learn about me. I always have a backstory when you're old like me. This happens.
Something to look forward to. Awesome.
I was in the faculty here, and it was kind of a hybrid mode because I was actually active duty military, but I worked for the university, so I wasn't paid by the university, but I was treated as faculty, and I was a department chair, and I was sat on the faculty senate as an ex officio non-voting member, but I attended the faculty senate meetings. And when the governor started doing some pretty hardcore stuff during election season of 2024, and then certainly right after the president took office, what I saw happening in the faculty senate with near immediate capitulation to some of the anti-DEI language and policies that were being released or being floated really alarmed me. And it was this appeasement mentality to, and in their defense, federal money is really important to research universities and the University of Oklahoma. But I was astonished at how quick they were to do appeasement, and I couldn't help but think, and this is going to sound like a crazy comparison, but in Germany in the 1930s, there are a lot of people who said, just keep your heads down, don't get noticed, and this will pass. I felt like that was happening here with the discriminatory policies that were being sent down, and professors, talking about, well, I'll change the name of the course. I'll teach all the same stuff, but I'll change the name so we don't capture the attention of the people who are scrutinizing us, which is a capitulation and an admission of guilt and set you up for future problems. So I was really alarmed at that and disappointed because I'm a graduate of OU, so I already had an affinity for it. So fast forward to the Fulnecki case, and what I saw in that was a fast-track, spring-loaded capitulation to that to the student's complaint that suggested to me, and I don't have any insider knowledge on this, but it suggests to me, and I will die on this hill, I think, that meant that there was already a playbook ready to go. Here's our capitulation playbook. Here's how we keep in the good graces and we avoid the ire of these people who have proven themselves perfectly willing to disrupt or destroy any institution that gets on their bad side. Yeah. And I understand the self-preservation instinct, right? That's a rational instinct to have. But many of our instincts are stupid and we shouldn't follow them, right? some are betray our character, and I'm sad that it went down that way. I have I wasn't being entirely. I do have some inside information because I have a friend on the faculty who's talked about this, but without revealing what he's told me about his thoughts, I'll tell you my thoughts are. That we didn't do ourselves any favors, and ultimately, if nothing else, we've invited this to happen to us again. Because once you cave to a bully, they're going to come back for your lunch money again.
Oh, every day.
Our lunch money, you're not going to put it in our shoes. They're going to find it. They're going to hang. They're going to keep giving us swirlies until we grow a pair. Sorry.
That's right. That's right. I just want to say welcome to Ken Conson, who just joined the show. I shared this live with him because he also does political panels on Tuesdays on the Tube of You. Oh, and I told him that he needs to have you on your show because
great. Yeah, DM me. If we go on the Tube of You, I'll be able to use my $300 Shure microphone and it'll sound much better than this.
Ooh, swanky. I love that for you. Amazing. So, yes, thank you. Everybody should be following Ken. If you're not following Ken, what are you even doing? Seriously, guys, what are you even doing? What is your stance, since we are like sort of on the same vein here? What is your stance on LGBTQ rights and bodily autonomy?
I'm an ally for my two-spirit LGBTQIA community. Full stop. There's nobody's going to talk me out of supporting them, and I'll die on that hill. The women deserve to make their own choices about their whatever they do with it, and the choice of what happens with their reproductive health is between them and their doctor. Full stop. We should have, the overturning of Roe was incredibly problematic. We predicted it, and it's actually, I think, been worse than we predicted because it's so fast. It's gotten bad, and I'm sad that this back to the 70-year-old women at the DEM meeting, that these are battles that they fought really hard for, and now they're watching in the end of their lives, watching the everything they fought so hard for going away. So I'm firm on both those things, and I don't think you have to be hardcore progressive to do that. You just have to have a heart and be empathetic and know that everybody has their own journey, and it's it's hard enough to just exist without someone targeting you because of who you love or how you express yourself sexually or gender wise.
And I want to point out too that over 400 women have been they've been arrested for getting health care, for lack of a better term, trying to be TikTok PC here, but 0 men, 0 people have been arrested for the Epstein files, except for one woman. So the fuck is with that? Yeah, just pointing that out there. What is your stance on immigration?
Oof. How much time do we have? So I'll give you the short version of this, and this will also sound rehearsed, but it's only because I say this all in so many venues.
Sure.
First of all, we've always been a nation of immigrants, and we're better off for it. Our immigration system is broken, and it's broken on purpose. There are people out there who benefit financially and culturally from a broken system that's based on xenophobia, racism, and economic exploitation. And here's the metaphor that the comparison that I have in my head. I don't know how it lands, but this is the best way I can describe it, or what's my favorite way to describe it. If you've ever been on a cruise, imagine yourself on a cruise, and you're sitting on your balcony. You have the whole drinks package, of course, and you're enjoying the luxurious all you can eat and all you can drink package that you've been able to put together. And then you look over your balcony, and you see people desperately swimming toward your cruise ship. And as you look out in the distance, you see sinking boats in the distance. And you look over the side, much alarmed because you're a compassionate person, and you see that despite there being many doors on the side of the ship and many ropes to be let down, there's one door that's open, very narrow door that's open. They're letting those people up there, and everybody else is clinging. Everywhere else in the vessel is being sprayed with water or having stuff thrown at them to kick them back in the water. And we let some people aboard through that tiny little hole, and some people get aboard through other ways, and all of them end up in the belly of the ship working the hardest jobs, cooking the food, manning the engine room, and getting dirty and invisible to the rest of those of us who are enjoying our drinks package. That's our immigration system in a nutshell, and I'll add a cherry on top. We sank some of those boats. Some of those boats are burning because of what we did. It is a moral abomination that we don't have more doors open. We need to find a way to welcome people aboard that are desperate, and for people that are just seeking a better life. Do I believe we should have an intact border and enforce it? Yes, but let's have a gate there where people can come in, make their asylum claims, get vetted, get an ID, and if we need to have them check in and get tracked, have them get tracked. They contribute more to our economy than the right would admit. They don't commit as many crimes as the average American citizen does. They're more entrepreneurial. They bring just a treasure trove of cultural improvements to our country, food and music and dance, you name it. Everything about it makes it better if you just set aside your racism and misogyny and or racism and xenophobia, and stop looking for people to exploit so you can become rich. It's hard to justify our system. It's a fucking disaster.
I don't think I could say that any better. So congratulations for being eloquent in your speech, sir. That's a clippable moment, folks. That is a clippable moment. Can you tell me if you believe that you are a progressive?
I do. I think I am a progressive. There's no one definition for that, but what I'll tell you is I think of myself as a progressive dude, and if I could snap my fingers and change the world, it would be a very progressive place. But here's the important part, and I say this on campaign trail all the time. If I had the power to snap my fingers and change the world and make it a progressive place, yeah, I might do that, but that's not a politician's job. Politician's job is to figure out what the people they represent need and want and find a way to make that real without violating their core values or the law. So I'm a progressive, but I would consider myself a pragmatic progressive. In the state of Oklahoma, there are some things, some issues that, that may be really important to me, but they're not, on the walk card I'm hanging on people's doors, or issues that I may battle in favor of, but I need to do some first things first, take care of this district things first. So I'm a pretty progressive dude. I don't know, where I am on the scale. I haven't taken one of those quizzes in a while to see where I plot. But honestly, it doesn't matter where I plot on one of those scales, because if my job is to support and defend the Constitution, to write good law, and take good care of the people in my district, and if I just follow the values my parents gave me about doing the right thing for people, love thy neighbor, the least of these, all that. If I do that, then I'll be doing a great job, and I might not be able to champion the most progressive causes, but I can, or might not be able to get them across the finish line, but I can be a voice of reason in a state where leadership on that front is required, and that may be the key role I play for progressivism. Is not that I turn, I can turn it around and make a bunch of progressive policy happen in one term, but maybe as a leader, I can become trusted enough by my friends in the Republican Party and independents that when they hear me talk about things like immigration, they go, "Huh, I never thought about that way." Leaders find a way to communicate a message and get people to get in step with them. Trying to force someone into it, at the barrel of a pew pew, or trying to shame someone into it. It almost never works. You gotta find a way to be convincing, and that's what I hope to do, especially on the most progressive issues that maybe don't affect Oklahoma every day, but really matter in other places. And there are people out there. I need to be an ally for people everywhere, but I trust that those folks who have those as more pressing issues in their state, they'll be knocking on my door in the Capitol saying, "I need your vote on this." And if I'm going to take a hard vote, then I'm going to come back to the state and say, here's what I'm going to do in the district. Here's what I do. Here's why I'm doing it. And if that means you're going to vote me out next time, then okay, vote me out. That's okay. Some things are worth losing your job over.
Yeah, definitely. Hakeem Jeffries for speaker, yay or nay?
No, he's a good guy, but he hasn't met the moment. Yeah, he hasn't met the moment. We need more bold leadership, and I'm not going to dig into where he gets his money, campaign finances. That's not as important to me. What we need are bold leaders, people who are willing to fight hard, who find a way to get the mission accomplished. It's one thing to earn the job, and this is a classic military example. When you get hired to be a commander in, at least I can speak for the Air Force, when you're hired to be a commander in the Air Force, that is because you've been vetted and trusted, and you've been placed in this really important position of trust, and you're expected to be a leader. But you have no right, you have no permanent claim to that leadership role. You have to continually prove yourself up to the task. And when you hear about commanders being fired in the military, you'll often hear the phrase loss of trust and confidence. And that can be anything from someone doing something silly in a bedroom to something with a bottle, or something related to a criminal activity. And I'm not accusing Hakeem Jeffries of doing any of those things. I'm just saying that I don't have faith he's going to lead our very progressive coalition from the Blue Tsunami to actually get shit done. I don't want to get to Washington D.C. and have all of us who won this fight and were the ones who did the hard thing and ran in the hard districts and brought the blue tsunami. I don't want to come to Washington D.C. and have to say, okay, now you all sit over here while the grown-ups, continue the status quo incrementalism. I'm not down for that. We have the patient's dying right now. We have to be bold. So I'll apologize to him as I do it, but I wouldn't vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
And don't forget about your call time.
That's right. I'm not going to do that either.
No, call time. Fuck that.
Not doing
No.
it. So, people have called me, unrealistic or naive for saying that, but the punishment for refusing that is they're going to primary me, and then I might not be elected. Like, okay, well, you didn't support me in my first campaign. Why would I need it this time? And I'm pretty sure if I hold the line on that and come back to my district and say, hey, the party's funding a primary for some chosen person, or some millionaires decided to toe the party line, that would probably resonate pretty well with my supporters. And if it costs me my job, fine, then I will come back home and grow my hair out and go hiking, and I'll be able to look myself in the mirror and say I never compromised my values. Because the problem with call time is every minute you're on the phone dialing for dollars while you're on the clock, that is in Washington, D.C., that's the time you're not fighting for your district. Yeah. And I'm not saying I won't raise money, but my focus is back home. But if someone wants to call me and offer me money, I'll take it. But I'm not gonna. And I don't want to be someone's bungler.
It's honestly that's something that needs to change. Like the whole the way that we raise money for politics in this country has got to change. So, yes, I fully support that. I think that's amazing. I'm supposed to ask you about a letter you sent to Pete Hegseth.
Yeah. So if you're following the Mark Kelly situation, so Senator Mark Kelly, former fighter pilot and astronaut, so pretty accomplished fella. He and I are in the same category, although he's more accomplished than I am. He, as a military retiree, he joined 5 other lawmakers in making a video reminding troops that they have a duty not to follow unlawful orders. And the administration went apeshit over that. They tried twice to indict him in a federal grand jury. Mm-hmm. Both of those failed, of course. The Secretary of Defense pushed the Secretary of the Navy to initiate an investigation to call into question Senator Kelly's retirement grade, which is crazy. That's basically using like a time machine, saying something he did now was problematic for his retirement. They're trying to punish him for not only for using free speech, not only for using probably protected speech as a senator under the speech and debate clause, but most importantly, for speaking the truth. You do have a duty to disobey unlawful orders. I know that because it was literally in the curriculum I taught. I learned that in basic training back in 1990. You have a duty to not follow unlawful orders. So when he was punished, or they attempted to punish him, and the president called him a traitor and talked about, traitors must be hanged, but like really vile and disturbing response to something that was so clearly true and protected. So what I did is I wrote a letter to Secretary Hegseth, and on campaign letterhead from me, and I explained that I'm a retired Air Force colonel, and I spent my whole life following orders and wanting to do my duty. And based on my observations of the Mark Kelly case, I don't understand what the rules are. Article 188, 133, and 134 of the UCMJ, I've read them, and none of what he did seems to have violated any of them. So please, in 30 days, please send me something that lays out the guidelines, the lane for me to stay in, so I can continue to uphold my oath of office and not break the law. Signed, yours truly, Colonel Jeff Pixley, retired. And I sent it certified mail to him and to the Secretary of the Air Force. I know he got it because I sent it certified mail, and I've never heard anything back.
Shocking.
And I know why I didn't say anything back, because his department knows A, I was setting a trap for them, and B, that there's nothing they could say that would stand up. Yeah. And what they're doing is arbitrary. It's meant to their interpretation is arbitrary. Whatever the secretary decides is improper, which is no way to run a ship. Right. And they're doing it to punish and stifle free speech. And if they'd not made a big deal, they kind of, the Streisand effect actually took hold on this one. They could have this could have kind of died in the background. But the truth is, there's plenty of evidence out there that unlawful orders have been given. I can only speak to one example for certain, but I'll speak to it because it matters to me as an F-16 pilot and as a guy who is trained in maritime interdiction and who understands the law of armed conflict, the law of war, and understands how operational orders and attack orders work. On September 2nd, by the way, 24 hours after I retired. So I got out just in time. On September 2nd, we bombed the first Venezuelan boat, and the second strike on that boat was on a disabled vessel in waters with 2 living human beings clinging to the wreckage. And when that strike hit that boat, that was the culmination of at least one illegal order. I don't know where it came from. I'm guessing it came from high, but there were illegal orders that were given to strike that boat. And they stand by that, and they continue to make these vessel attacks happen is something our country's going to have to deal with for a long time. The good news is, I think the Southcom commander, the admiral, he left over that. He never took a public stand on it, but I believe, and I think the conventional wisdom is he left over that strike or over that series of strike, which is good for him. I am a little bit disappointed, though, that there hasn't been more outrage expressed by retired senior officers. I am a member of an organization that is not partisan, but made up of former senior military leaders that's taken a stand on this, is supporting Senator Kelly. And I know we're on the right side of history, but I'm still somewhat careful in my speech about the Secretary of Defense and the President, because there are rules, and I know what the rules say, so I'm following the rules as I understand them. Yeah. But it's frustrating because I have a lot to say on these matters that if I were to be completely frank, the FBI might knock on my door. Now, the good news is if the FBI arrested me tomorrow, I'd probably be great for my campaign. But the bad news is who would make the phone calls each day for money?
I know, right? That's really important to do. And the other thing about the whole Mark Kelly situation, first of all, I want to just point out for a second that since since Hegseth has taken office as the Secretary of War, I will never ever call it that. Like, seriously, by the way, double tapping is something that they've been doing on a regular, and that is not legal to do. So, but it's something that they have decided that it's regular operation now. And that's disturbing. But the other thing that really kind of disturbs me about the whole Mark Kelly situation is that his wife is Gabby Giffords. Yes. And she was shot. Can I say that on TikTok? I don't know. She was pew-pewed in the head by due to political violence because somebody was upset with something that she had done. And to spin all of this shit up for Mark Kelly puts both of them, back in danger again. It's like wholly reckless, completely irresponsible, absolutely removed from reality bullshit. So,
but Mark Kelly is, I'm so proud. I wish I knew him. I don't. I would love to meet Mark. They are doing the right thing. They are taking bold action. They are unafraid, and they certainly know the risks. That family knows more than maybe most about the risks, and they're doing it anyway. And good on him. And I think it may not, it may not change the behavior of the administration, but kind of like I mentioned before, Mark Kelly and the other folks who were part of that video, and those the admiral who retired, will be able to look in the mirror and say they did the right thing, and then maybe one day when the history is written, we'll get a full accounting of what happened. And I'm convinced that there are people in the DoD right now that will go to jail one day over what they're doing right now. And that breaks my heart, but it's true. And we can't let our affinity for an organization or for our former, battle buddies and wingmen interfere with what is right and proper and ethical and moral. We used to have a moral high ground, and once you've lost that, it's really hard to get it back. So we have a bunch of repair to do.
Definitely. Can you talk about how you feel about congressional members and their relationship with the stock market?
Yeah, it's such an easy fix. So my personal belief is that every member of Congress should place any of their held assets into a blind trust the entire time they're in office. I think a case can be made for their staffers to be in the same boat, although no, I haven't heard anybody talking about that because um, they do have inside information in hearings and in investigations that we're not privy to. So um, someone could say, well, we can trust them. Well, they've proven themselves. At least some people are untrustworthy. And just like campaign finance, like not taking corporate money, if my constituents think even for a moment that I might be compromised, then I've lost. Even if I'm not, right? Even if I'm not doing insider trading, even if I'm not letting corporate money decide votes for me, if they even think it for a second, then I have no credibility and all is lost. So I think they shouldn't trade individual stocks at all. I prefer going into a blind trust. Just let some asset manager manage their money while they're in office. And if that's too much to ask of you, then don't take the job. There's other people out there. If you're so fabulously wealthy and the dips and rises of the stock market are something that you care more about than anything else, then just keep doing that, and then let a public servant who's willing to put their personal financial gain aside come to office. There are some folks out there. Congress shouldn't make any money. You shouldn't pay them. Well, you gotta have. They shouldn't pay. You shouldn't become fabulously wealthy because you're a member of Congress.
Trump is the first president in our history to become a billionaire, yes, with a B, while serving as president. And if that is not a problem for y'all, I would invite you to just come and have a chat with me because it's a problem for me. Yeah, crazy. It's crazy. So I appreciate that. I think that that's really important to talk about, because I think that a lot of people, again, we're being hit with the camel every day. So it's really hard for us to focus on the things that actually matter. This thing that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner is not going to move the needle for us. It doesn't matter to us, but it's something that they keep, they want us to talk about now. There's a lot of things that they want us to talk about now. The last thing I want to ask you before I let you go for the night, and thank you so much for being here. I think this has been great. Have you watched the Lego videos? And what is your take? What is your take on the Lego videos? I would love to know.
So let me begin by saying I hate AI generated videos as just that's my baseline.
Sure.
And I have never shared one or liked one because we are in active conflict with Iran. And to the extent that would give aid and cover to the enemy, I think that'd be improper for me to do it.
Fair.
But here's what I'll tell you: from an information operations and a propaganda perspective, they're doing really solid work. Maybe we are on the other side. I've never been in information operations or I've never been in that side of the warfare business. Maybe we're doing great work on our side and doing things I can't see. But whoever's doing that they're turning them really fast. They're inside the media loop, which is really impressive to get inside the media loop. And I don't know how many people are watching the videos and how much they're moving the needle, if at all. But I think being mocked as a nation, which is what they're doing to us, should make every American feel like if we're on the right, and if the world is laughing at us, that's bad. And I know that if there's a chance that his team is preventing him from seeing these videos. If I worked for President Trump, I would not want him to see those, because I'm pretty sure he'd hit me with a plate of ketchup.
I was just going to say the ketchup's going to fly.
Right. But I'll bet he is seeing them, and I hope I don't know if that's going to change his decision making, but I think it should give you pause to see that an AI input can take what's happening right now and turn into what some might characterize as a pretty compelling case for us being on the wrong side of this fight. And I think and I'm not afraid to say this separate from these videos, that I think what we have kicked off in Iran is going to haunt our country for years, and it was unnecessary self-own that I wish we hadn't have done.
Like the foresight on this whole situation is like 2 inches. Like there's nothing beyond that. This is where we are. And I think that they are brilliant because the majority of Americans can't read past the 6th grade level. And honestly, if you are taking that, something that is so recognizable and so like that people can identify with, and dumbing it down to a Lego movie, you're talking to Americans. You're not talking to, the government.
I almost didn't say this, but I'm saying anyway because this may be a couple of moments. If I were the people who made Legos, I'd be terrified that the president was going to put a POMP on my country, thinking it's their fault somehow. So I don't know if they're insured, who insures them. But if I worked at Lego, I'd be remote working like a motherfucker right now.
I'd be scared right now. I'd be like, shit, it's coming after us. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for answering all of our questions. Thank you for the chat, for staying in here. And I want to show you guys sort of a little bit of what I've been doing, what we've been doing with It Takes a Village to fundraise, to be able to provide a donation to people like Jeff's campaign. So I started this little initiative. I started making birdhouses. Okay. Let me do a thing here. I started making birdhouses, and these aren't just regular birdhouses. They're really freaking cool birdhouses. If I have to say so myself, they're very awesome birdhouses. Okay. I started doing more than that. I started making patches and magnets and pins, and I'm making like these little pins right here. This one says Punch Nazis. Yahtzees. This one says Be a Good Human. And these are all going to be available on our Whatnot shop. You can pick up a birdhouse and support grassroots efforts at the same time. You can buy pins that look like this and support grassroots efforts at the same time. And having donating to Jeff is awesome. Yes, do that. But if you want something tangible, if you want something that you can wear on your chest that speaks your voice in a time of crazy, hey Terrence, crazy authoritarianism, for lack of a better term, we will have these available, and they're really cool. So that's what we've been doing. This one's really cool. Hang on, there's one in here that I wanted to show you guys. It's really awesome. But they're going to be in all kinds of different sizes. There's this one that says No Kings, and it has tentacles. And then this one is really cool. I like this one a lot. It's a guillotine. So, yeah. And they're all in all kinds of different sizes. So that's what we've been doing to help our grassroots friends. We're making stuff. We're making things. Messes, mostly. We're making messes, mostly. But if you want to follow our journey on Whatnot to help us raise money for these amazing grassroots efforts, you can find us on Village Built, or this little link down here will give you $15 to spend at your favorite shop. Ours. Hi there. Our shop. We have keychains and magnets and all kinds of awesome stuff that will help people like Jeff get elected. So we do shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. The only time zone that exists, apparently, is the Eastern time zone. That's what I hear. So I hope you guys will join us there. And listen, this all of these things together, all these things that we've talked about tonight, these are all the things that we have to do to change this script, right? The script is right now, everything is loud and angry, and we have to start being strategic. We have to do it not by yelling and not by posting angrier. We have to show up smarter and be more consistently, we have to show up more consistently than they expect us to. And that includes places like Oklahoma, 2nd District, these places that have been written off, for lack of a better term. We don't get to complain about the ending if we refuse to be a part of the plot, you guys. So if you have been sitting on the sidelines, this is your moment to get involved, stay involved. And remember, you don't have to do everything. You just have to do something. Okay? Every little bit. You're at the 4th district. Brandon Wade is in the 2nd district. Thank you for clarifying that. Brandon Wade will be on our show on Friday. So we're going to just take a little drive down the road in Oklahoma to see Brandon. And in the meantime, Jeff Pixley, 2nd district, guys. So sorry about that. And remember, no hope is too small, guys. No district is too far gone. And we don't bow to anyone. So before we let you go, Jeff, I'm going to give you the last word. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the amazing people here who are here today? Reminder, just a quick little tidbit. We will be posting this show on Substack and YouTube, so it will continue to reach after our time here is done. So what would you like to tell people?
All I want, you let me talk about myself so much. Let me talk about y'all. That you're on this and spending any time of your evening listening to a political panel with someone that, there's a couple people in the chat that already know me, but most of y'all don't. And Jess, you doing this, you're doing a service for our country. You really are. So thank you to everybody who's staying involved and building community around these really important issues. I know there are people out there you'll never meet that will benefit from the work that we're doing right now. And just like you said, Jess, there's no role too small, and doing something really matters. So thank you for doing something. I'm just honored to get to spend some time with you. This has been great.
We can't wait to have you back, Jeff. And as I was telling Ken, I'm going to tell everybody else that runs political panels and does interviews like this to please make sure that you are reaching out to Jeff and his team, because they are amazing. Lime Accordion, I'm talking to you, my dear. They're amazing. And it's really, really important that we get people like Tom Cole out of office. That is something that has national implications. I know it's okay, Lime. I appreciate you being here, though. Lime Accordion is amazing. If you don't know who that is, Jeff's like, yes, we already know. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for supporting It Takes a Village. Thank you for supporting Village Built, and we will continue to do the work as long as we need to. Our journey doesn't stop in November. We are just getting started. So thank you guys so much for everything. And Jeff, we can't wait to have you back.
Thanks,
so
Jess,
we're going to send you a booking link to book again, because I want to know, especially after the primary, how things went, what you would change, and, talk about all the stuff. So
great. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And till next time, see you Friday. Bye.